Chapter 960. Almost half of the celestial emperors were qualified to enter the celestial god clans, but only a small portion would be given an important position. Everyone understood that the most important part of the court examination was the battle between the celestial emperors. The immeasurable emperor's answer was much simpler than the other person's. He had only spoken 2 or 3 sentences. However, both the Red Moon and the Old Master Luo declared the immeasurable emperor to be the victor. The celestial emperor at the peak of the celestial emperor stage didn't understand. He glared fiercely at the immeasurable emperor, but could only turn and leave. After the immeasurable emperor left, the Zhang Dizuan looked deeply at Long Chun. He knew that there was something fishy going on here. After the immeasurable emperor left, the Old Master Luo and the red-robed woman both projected another image in the air. This time, it was still the battle between the celestial emperors. When the spectators saw this, they all began to clamor. Could it be that those 2 simple sentences were the root cause of the battle between the 2 celestial emperors in 15 minutes? Is it really possible to infuse 80% of one's divine power into a spell in 15 minutes? Since the 2 of them are now fighting, it means that his answer is correct. The Old Master Luo gestured for the immeasurable emperor to stand behind him. The immeasurable emperor walked forward. The Old Master Luo asked calmly, "Is the person behind you, completely covered in black robes, willing to join the people of Baiyi Shen as well?" The immeasurable emperor was stunned. Then he put his palms together and said, "This humble monk does not have the final say in this matter. It depends on who." The immeasurable emperor's gaze fell on Long Chun. He was a bit puzzled. When Long Chun and the immeasurable emperor walked through the screen, he felt that they were quite talented. However, he was most concerned about the black-robed celestial emperor. Long Chun was only a venerable emperor. How could he be the master of a divine king? Old Master Luo didn't pursue the matter. Time flew by, and the emperor's court examination soon ended. Out of the 600 imperial emperors, 300 had passed the palace examination. The divine clans of the middle ground did not give them too many tests. The various imperial monarchs could only smile bitterly after being looked down upon like this. Everyone was looking forward to the upcoming palace examination for Dizun. The scene of 2 venerable sovereigns fighting appeared. Divine radiance towered into the sky, Taoist principles fluctuated, and multicolored light flowed. Countless imperial monarchs felt like they were within the clouds, and they were unable to discern anything at all. Under the 10-star artifacts, the sovereigns were all lost in thought and sighed. Long Chen's eyes flashed. He felt that this palace examination was quite interesting. In this image, one of the 2 emperors was only a 2nd-layer Emperor Realm Master, while the other was a 4th-layer Emperor Realm Master. An early-stage Emperor Realm Master had killed a mid-stage Emperor Realm Master in less than an hour. Long Chun could only see a few of the reasons behind this. As Long Chun pondered, he continued to communicate with the remnant soul of the Emperor Realm Master. While he was still pondering, he saw a middle-aged venerable sovereign with a dark face in front of the Red Moon fly into the air. From afar, he shouted to the venerable sovereigns of the people of Baiyi Shen, "Why are you taking so long to finish such a simple battle?" The faces of the venerable sovereigns in front of the people of Baiyi Shen darkened. Long Chun and Zhang Dizuan couldn't help but frown. The battle between the 2 venerable sovereigns was very complicated, and there was a huge gap between their realms. There must be many reasons for such a battle. The middle-aged man who suddenly appeared was a little arrogant. Before any venerable sovereigns of the people of Baiyi Shen stepped forward, the middle-aged venerable sovereign with a dark face said, "There are 72 reasons why the 2nd-layer Emperor Realm Master won this battle. With these 72 reasons, I challenge all of you." There was an uproar. Even the Old Master Luo's face suddenly darkened. He flew into the air and said to the tall red-robed woman of the Red Moon, "The palace examination has always been a one-on-one debate. What is this person trying to do?" The tall red-robed woman pretended to be helpless and said indifferently, "He is not a disciple of the Red Moon yet. If he wants to challenge me, there is nothing I can do." The old man's divine power surged, but before he could do anything, he saw a sloppy man pulling him back. The old man could only snort coldly and say no more. "I'll be the first one. I want to see how you can find 72 reasons." A beautiful woman flew up and shouted at the middle-aged man with a dark face. The beautiful woman said in a deep voice, "The second-layer Emperor Realm Master won because he pretended to be weak. He almost lost his life in the first 10 moves, but then he forcibly injured the fourth-layer Emperor Realm Master with a thunderous force. Secondly, this person has a secret technique that allows him to display a strong combat strength in a short time. Thirdly, the visualization technique he used completely suppressed the fourth-layer Emperor Realm Master." Many Emperor Realm Masters nodded as the man finished speaking. Only Long Chen frowned slightly. Although the man's third point was correct, he did not delve too deeply into it. In fact, only a few Emperor Realm Masters could delve too deeply into it. After all, there were too few people who could perceive it with just a picture. Sure enough, the middle-aged man with a dark face said directly, "Firstly, even if this person pretended to be weak, how could he injure a middle-stage Emperor Realm Master with a thunderous force? You didn't see this point, so you didn't delve too deeply into it. That's because he suppressed the power of his opponent's 10 moves with his right hand. It can be said that he injured the fourth-layer Emperor Realm Master with his own strength. Secondly, he has a secret technique. Doesn't the fourth-layer Emperor Realm Master have a secret technique?" The beautiful woman was speechless. In the end, she could only snort coldly and leave the palace examination area unwillingly. Seeing an Emperor Realm Master leave like this, the old Master Luo and the others of the people of Bai Yi Shen were furious. The rules of the palace examination were set by the nearby clans. If not for this, they would not have let any Emperor Realm Master go. Although some of these people were not very talented, their combat strength was not to be underestimated. The middle-aged man with a dark face looked arrogant and mocked. "Such a simple question. Does no one dare to debate with me?" Those present who had reached the Emperor Realm didn't have any backbone, so they all stepped forward to debate with him. However, in a short 2 hours, more than 10 people had been defeated. These people all left the palace examination area in anger. The old Master Luo snorted coldly and said, "The Red Moon has gone too far. If this person really disregards the agreement and continues to debate like this, how many Emperor Realm Masters will be left in our clan? On the other hand, the Red Moon might be able to recruit a large number of Emperor Realm Masters who participated in the palace examination." Chapter 961. Long Chen caught every word of the sloppy man's words and frowned deeply. 7 Divine King-level powerhouses had joined the Red Moon Divine Clan. From the looks of it, the matter could not be more obvious. Outside of the Middle Continent, only the North Foot territory could produce 7 Divine Kings at the same time. These 7 people must be the Ethereal King, the Bone-Kill Divine King, and the 5 skeletons created by the Reincarnation Spring. With the provocation of the black-faced D-Zun under the Red Moon, almost half of the D-Zun who participated in the palace examination under the people of Bai Yi Shen had been eliminated. Gradually, the D-Zun looked at each other, and for a moment, no one dared to step forward. They knew that the more they stood in front of this person, the higher the chance of being eliminated. Seeing this, Zhuzong Dizuan did not comment and planned to step forward. Long Chen shook his head and stopped him. He said in a deep voice, "Let me do it. I'm afraid this person already knows the questions of the palace examination, and someone is helping him." Zhuzong Dizuan stopped when he heard this. Naturally, he had his own speculations. If this person could see the 72 reasons for the D-Zun battle in such a short time, it would be incredible. Zhuzong Dizuan replied, "Then you go and try. At worst, you can withdraw from the palace examination." Long Chen nodded and stepped forward. Many Di-Zun who participated in the palace examination under the red moon stared at Long Chen with a playful expression. These people were quite proud of the scene in front of them. After all, with the elimination of the Di-Zun under the people of Bai Yishen, these people did not need to participate in the palace examination at all. They would be accepted by the red moon directly. This was a good thing for both the red moon and these Di-Zun. On the other hand, the people of Bai Yishen had suffered a great loss. All the major god clans who participated in the palace examination had a rule that those who failed to pass the palace examination could not be accepted by their clans. The sovereigns were fine, but the sovereigns were a huge loss to them. Long Chen stood not far from the burly dark-faced man and looked at him from a distance. Since your excellency wants to eliminate all the emperors present with 72 reasons, you must be quite confident. The black-faced Di-Zun glanced at Long Chen with disdain. Before Long Chen, he had already stated nearly 30 reasons and eliminated many venerable sovereigns. This made him extremely arrogant. What he wanted to do this time was to eliminate everyone from the Danite God clan who was participating in the court examination. Cut the crap. I've already listed 28 reasons why a second-layer Emperor Realm Master could defeat a fourth-layer Emperor Realm Master. How many more can you find? Just say them all at once. This person's tone was very domineering, as if he had already determined that the 72 reasons he knew were the limit. Long Chen coldly snorted and said in a deep voice, "In your opinion, there are 72 reasons why a second-stage Emperor Realm Master can defeat a fourth-stage Emperor Realm Master. None of these 72 reasons can be missing, right?" Whether it was the black-faced Di-Zun or the people around him, they all nodded. It was too difficult for a second-layer Emperor Realm Master to defeat a fourth-layer Emperor Realm Master. The slightest carelessness could lead to eternal damnation. If these 72 reasons were true, then none of them could be missing. Seeing the black-faced Di-Zun nod in agreement, Long Chen smiled and said indifferently, "In my opinion, a second-layer Emperor Realm Master only needs 9 of these reasons to defeat a fourth-layer Emperor Realm Master. And it only takes 15 minutes. 9 reasons? 15 minutes." As soon as Long Chen finished speaking, there was an uproar and then a discussion broke out. What is this person talking about? The second-layer Emperor Realm Master in the picture can rely on his 9 advantages to defeat a fourth-layer Emperor Realm Master within 15 minutes. How is this possible? A fourth-layer Emperor Realm Master is already a middle-stage Emperor Realm Master, while a second-layer Emperor Realm Master has just entered the Emperor Realm. The two can't be compared. I think this person is just trying to bluff his way through. It can't be taken seriously. Whether it was the Red Moon or the Emperor Realm Masters participating in the palace examination, they all shook their heads. They felt that Long Chen's words were unbelievable. The other 8 god clans had also seen the contest between the Red Moon and the people of Bai Yishen, but no one was willing to get involved in it. Long Chen's words attracted the attention of the various forces, but most of them shook their heads. The red-robed woman from the Red Moon burst out laughing when she heard this. She narrowed her eyes and stared at Long Chen, saying, "Little guy, don't talk nonsense. Why don't you tell me how the second-layer Emperor Realm Master in the picture can rely on his 9 advantages to defeat a 6th-layer Emperor Realm Master?" Long Chen looked at the red-robed woman without the slightest fear. He said in a neither servile nor overbearing tone, "Senior, please display the image of the jade slip again." The red-robed woman looked deeply at Long Chen, then waved her hand and a ray of divine light fell on the horizon again. Scenes of battle appeared one after another. Just as the images began to flash, a ray of divine light suddenly shot out from Long Chen's right hand and froze the image. He said, "This person gave up resisting the 4th-layer Emperor Realm Master's first attack and immediately used a secret technique and a soul skill to attack at the same time with a thunderous force. With the help of the soul skill and the secret technique, this attack can only destroy half of his body at most, but the sixth-layer Emperor Realm Master will definitely be severely injured when the sword is stopped. Buzz. As soon as Long Chen finished speaking, the ray of light in his hand moved again. After more than 10 breaths, the image froze again. Here, he can use his visualization techniques and battle skills to fight against it. In just a quarter of an hour, Long Chen had listed 9 key points to counterattack. The people around him were all stunned, but no one refuted or agreed with him. When the image froze for a quarter of an hour, Long Chen turned to Old Master Luo and the red-robed woman behind him and asked, "Seniors, do you think there is a problem with what I said?" The red-robed woman and Old Master Luo did not answer for a while. The other members of the 8 great god clans had more or less heard what Long Chen had said. One of them, an old lady, could not help but say, "If it's really as you say, this person might win. However, it's also possible that he'll die in the first few moves. Moreover, what you said is far from our answer, but we can't say that you are wrong." As soon as this person finished speaking, the surrounding Xiao nodded, as if they all felt the same way. Seeing this, the black-faced Emperor Realm Master suddenly laughed and stared at Long Chen. He said mockingly, "What's the use of talking nonsense? It's just an armchair strategist. Get out of here, you ignorant fool." The black-faced man's words were not polite at all. Long Chen's words had almost stunned him. Now that he knew that Long Chen's answer was not the answer the god clans wanted, he naturally mocked and ridiculed him. Chapter 962. Let's fight and we'll find out. Long Chen's words stunned everyone present. No one had thought that he would use such a method to verify the truth of his words. Is this guy mistaken? Does he not know the cultivation level of Black Iron Supreme Emperor? Although Black Iron Supreme Emperor's face is like black iron and looks ordinary, he's already at level 6 of the Emperor realm. Black Iron Supreme Emperor? He's the black-faced magistrate of the 9 states territory. I didn't think of that. The surrounding people discussed animatedly and subconsciously looked at Long Chen. Long Chen did not intend to hide his cultivation level and directly released it. Everyone could tell at a glance that he was at level 4 of the Emperor realm. The black-faced Emperor did not react for a moment. When he saw that Long Chen happened to be at level 4 of the Emperor realm, he immediately laughed and said, "You want to prove your words by defeating me, a level 6 of the Emperor realm, as a level 4 of the Emperor realm? What a joke." Long Chen did not say anything. The long-bearded old man behind him stood up and said, "Little brother, don't be impulsive. What you said is not without reason. I will report it to the various clans and let them decide. The people of Bai Yishen will not let you suffer. If you lose your life because of this, it won't be right." After all, the phantom image was just an example. The old man's words did not mean to belittle Long Chen. A battle between a level 4 of the Emperor realm and a level 6 of the Emperor realm was far more dangerous than a level 2 of the Emperor realm. Even if Long Chen really had such strength, he was not willing to let Long Chen fight with his life on the line. The other hosts of the palace examination from the 8 great god clans nodded in agreement with the old Master Luo's words. After all, in their opinion, Long Chen's words were not without reason. "Haha, old Master Luo, why do you have to do this? They aren't the disciples of the people of Bai Yishen yet. Since they want to fight, then let them fight," the red-robed woman suddenly said. She looked at Long Chen with her beautiful eyes and said with a playful smile, "Little brother, I'm sure you're not someone who goes back on his words." Old Master Luo's face darkened as he roared, "Hong Pao, don't go too far. Everyone can see the difference in the palace examination." Zhang Dizuan walked over to Long Chen's side and whispered, "Don't be provoked by him. With our strength, even if we don't enter the Earth Source God race, we won't be too far off. Although your battle prowess is heaven-defying, can you defeat this person in 15 minutes? Zhang Dizuan knew a lot about Long Chen's combat prowess, but he was still somewhat uncertain. Long Chen smiled but said nothing. That day, when he fought with Zhang Dizuan, it was just a momentary desire to fight. The two of them were just exchanging pointers. If they had only wanted to determine the winner, Zhang Dizuan might have ended up worse. Although Long Chen's cultivation was at level 4 Emperor Realm, with the help of the Jiao Cangyang halberd and many other techniques, he was 80 to 90% confident that he could defeat a level 6 Emperor Realm master. As soon as the crowd finished speaking, Long Chen suddenly stepped forward and rose into the air. He stared at the black-faced Black Iron Emperor and said, "Come, since you think I'm wrong, then let's fight and we'll know the result." The black-faced Black Iron Emperor's face was as cold as ice. He felt that Long Chen was really ridiculous. He sneered and said, "If that's the case, then let's fight to the death. Otherwise, what's the point of testing?" Long Chen narrowed his eyes and could not help but smile. He said in a deep voice, "Then let's leave life and death to fate." Buzz. As soon as the two of them finished speaking, the red-robed woman from the Red Moon waved her hand and removed the light screen between the two divine clans. "Treat this little brother well. Otherwise, if he wins, people will say that you didn't use your full strength and can't test it. That will be hard to say." The tall woman chuckled. The black-faced Black Iron Emperor nodded and leaped up. Divine light flowed around his body like a waterfall. Buzz. Rumbling sounds came from his body, as if a giant beast was about to break out of his body. The rumbling sounds did not stop. The divine light around the black-faced Black Iron Emperor's body beat rhythmically. Every ray of divine light gave off an indestructible feeling. Soul skill, divine mountain of iron blades. As soon as the black-faced Black Iron Emperor's voice sounded, the origin energy of heaven and earth turned into sharp iron blades at a speed visible to the naked eye. Every iron blade shone with a cold light and exuded a terrifying murderous intent. These cold lights were formed from the divine clan's origin energy. When the surrounding people saw this, they were all slightly shocked. No one had expected the Black Steel Emperor to use his inherited soul skill as soon as he met Huiyuhao. Everyone could not help but cast their gazes at Long Chen. If he could not dodge such a terrifying attack, it was very likely that the outcome of the battle would be decided in one move. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Long Chen snorted coldly. Instead of dodging, he soared into the sky. The divine power around his body gathered on his right hand like a giant whale sucking in water. A dazzling brilliance instantly enveloped the 9 firmament suppression halberd. The halberd shone as if a divine weapon had descended. Battle technique, ancient sacred dragon god transformation. Bang bang bang. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the halberd swallowed and spat out divine light. Wherever it passed, the iron blades formed by divine power would shatter inch by inch. It was like a sharp blade piercing through ice. The scene was extremely shocking. How can this be? This person actually shattered the black-faced Black Iron Emperor's inherited soul skill with one move. What a powerful divine light. Is this person hiding his cultivation? How can he be a 4th stage emperor? It's true. This person's aura is undoubtedly at the 4th stage Emperor realm. Such a scene truly shocked everyone. Even the red-robed woman's expression changed slightly. The black-faced Black Iron Emperor felt goosebumps all over his body when he saw the halberd flying towards him. He had never thought that his inherited soul skill would be so easily destroyed by Long Chen. Especially the halberd in front of him. The suppressive aura it exuded made his blood seem to stop flowing. Boom boom boom. The black-faced Black Iron Emperor clapped his hands together. A giant black iron hammer fell from the sky and smashed onto the halberd that was flying towards him. A dazzling brilliance blossomed. The sound of metal clashing reverberated like thunder in spring. The halberd flew back, and the giant hammer fell back into the black-faced Black Iron Emperor's hands. The black-faced Black Iron Emperor and Long Chen looked at each other. They suddenly felt their faces burning. He had actually lost the upper hand in one move. This was a great insult to him. The black-faced Black Iron Emperor was extremely gloomy. On the other hand, the leaders of the various god clans nodded and discussed among themselves. Chapter 963. The Black Steel Supreme Emperor, who had failed in his first attack, sensed Long Chen's extraordinariness, and his expression became more serious. The giant hammer floated up and down, and the divine light was as strong as iron. The Black Steel Supreme Emperor could not help but glance at the halberd in Long Chen's hand. The suppressive force that came from the halberd gave him a great shock. "Is this what you're relying on? This weapon is really strange." The Black Steel Supreme Emperor looked deeply at Long Chen, and the giant hammer pierced through the air. Wherever the giant hammer passed, iron waves rolled. It was as if the entire sky was about to fall on Long Chen. Iron Sky Visualization Technique. Buzz. The Black Steel Supreme Emperor roared, and the entire sky under the giant hammer fell on Long Chen. The red-robed lady saw this and nodded slightly. The Black Steel Supreme Emperor was from the divine clan born from the earthly origin, and his visualization technique was passed down from generation to generation. With the giant hammer as the center, coupled with the Tao of Array, Long Chen could not escape. Under the people of Bai Yishen, the immeasurable emperor had unknowingly stood behind the white-boned divine king. If anything happened to Long Chen, he would not stand idly by. Azura Whirling Elephant. Buzz. Under everyone's gaze, an Azura evil shadow appeared out of thin air, and countless demonic auras were born from Long Chen's body. Rumble. As the Azura evil shadow evolved, the black chains around him began to fall off, and he held them tightly in his hands. Roar. For a moment, the Azura evil shadow seemed to have come alive, and it roared continuously. The Azura evil shadow held the chains with both hands, and it actually held the iron sky. This person has a powerful visualization technique, just like the person in the hall trial. No wonder this person dares to speak so arrogantly. With this technique alone, I'm afraid he's unrivaled among those of the same level. This person is at least from the earthly origin divine clan. Why haven't we heard of him before? Long Chen and the Black Iron Emperor looked at each other, but there was a bright light in front of them. The people in charge of the 10-god race palace trials could not help but look at them. They could not help but think highly of Long Chen. The unkempt man from the people of Bai Yishen couldn't help but nod his head. He exchanged a glance with the old Master Luo and made up his mind to protect Long Chen. Because of the Red Moon, the court examination was no longer fair. They didn't want Long Chen to be the scapegoat. Whoosh! Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Long Chen's figure suddenly disappeared on the spot. His long halberd was like a rainbow, and he was already 100 meters away from Black Steel Supreme Emperor. The Black Iron Supreme Emperor quickly retreated. The power of Long Chen's visualization technique was indeed beyond his expectations. On the other hand, he already had a backup plan. As the Black Steel Supreme Emperor retreated, he waved his hand to recall the giant hammer. The long halberd in Long Chen's hand made him extremely wary, and he was unwilling to engage in close combat with it. Rumble! The giant hammer flew back, but the corner of Long Chen's mouth revealed a cold smile. Buzz! In an instant, everyone felt the sky darken and the sun cover its light. As the divine power scattered, countless stars fell. Soul Skill, Star Attraction Primal Chaos Spell. As the stars fell, the divine light fell like giant rocks. Countless abysses appeared on the ground out of nowhere, and the deafening sound made everyone's heart palpitate. The leaders of the various god clans used their divine power to force Long Chen's soul skill back to a radius of a few miles. Oh no! When everyone forced Long Chen's soul skill back, the tall lady in red's expression changed. The leaders of the various god clans were stunned when they heard this. Everyone's gaze fell on the area where Long Chen and the Black Steel Supreme Emperor were fighting. Their soul skill had sealed off the Black Steel Supreme Emperor's escape route. Bang! Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, The Black Steel Supreme Emperor's expression changed drastically. The stars in the sky almost converged into a torrent and fell on him. As soon as the giant hammer fell into his hand, he had no choice but to use his divine power to resist Long Chen's powerful soul skill. "This is your inherited soul skill." The Black Steel Supreme Emperor felt the pressure of the mighty divine power and was instantly shocked and furious. Just as he finished speaking, Long Chen's halberd had already pierced through his chest. As it retreated, it chopped off his hands and sent the giant hammer in his hand flying. If the Black Steel Supreme Emperor had not turned into molten iron and disappeared at the last moment, his body would have been smashed into pieces by the halberd. Long Chen waved his right hand, and the giant hammer and halberd fell into his hand. The inherited soul skill disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a huge abyssal crater on the ground. "It's not even 15 minutes. Do you still want to continue?" Long Chen said plainly. Just as he finished speaking, streaks of black steel divine radiance converged 10,000 miles away from him. The Black Steel Supreme Emperor appeared on the spot with a pale face. The Black Steel Supreme Emperor stared at Long Chen and shouted angrily, "If the leaders of the various god clans had not restricted your inherited soul skill to the area where the two of us were, you wouldn't have been able to hurt me." Long Chen snorted coldly and did not reply. The members of the various god clans around them could not help but shake their heads. They looked down on the Black Steel Supreme Emperor. The tall lady from the Red Moon's face darkened. The Black Steel Supreme Emperor felt the gazes from all around him, and he felt like vomiting blood. He was unable to restrain his anger. "If I don't kill you today, I won't have any face left." Black Steel Mystic Enlightenment. Bang bang bang. His physical body started to turn the color of black steel, and countless Tao patterns started to appear on it. Everyone could feel a heart-palpitating power rapidly increasing. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, what followed was a series of explosions. When everyone turned around, they saw that Long Chen did not move at all. Only his hands had put away his weapon and were continuously drawing in the air. "How dare you!" The Black Steel Supreme Emperor's black steel body was on the verge of collapsing. It was as if there were countless explosive runes exploding in his body. Long Chen did not seem to care about him at all. The speed at which his hands were drawing Tao patterns became faster and faster. "Stop!" The tall lady in the red robe leaped out, and the blood-red divine radiance on her body shot into the sky. She was about to rush toward Long Chen. Long Chen snorted coldly and clapped his hands in the air. In the void where his palms landed, a series of mysterious inscriptions appeared and then disappeared without a trace. Puff! After a muffled sound, blood rained down. The Black Steel Supreme Emperor's physical body was shattered after it appeared. His divine soul was filled with horror, but before he could say a word, he turned into smoke and disappeared without a trace. Everyone around looked at the place where the Black Steel Supreme Emperor died. No one had expected that he would die the moment he used his secret skill. When everyone looked down, they found that there was a string of jade beads where he died. The jade beads floated up and down, and there were dense array patterns on them. When the immeasurable Emperor saw this, he could not help but shake his head and laugh. He clasped his hands together and said, "Ascending to Nirvana with glory, good indeed." The tall lady in the red robe disappeared without a trace before her attack landed. Chapter 964. The God Clans hosting the palace examination sighed with emotion. Many pairs of eyes looked at Long Chen, and they could not help but reveal admiration. Long Chen had defeated the Black Iron Supreme Emperor in a clean and tidy manner. He had used the Tao of Inscriptions to kill the Black Iron Supreme Emperor at the most opportune moment. A Level 4 Supreme Emperor had killed a Level 6 Supreme Emperor in less than a quarter of an hour. Everyone's jaws dropped. No matter what, at this moment, no one doubted Long Chen. How could words be more accurate than the facts in front of them? Long Chen's battle experience was enough to prove that he was not wrong. When the sloppy man stopped the red-robed Supreme Emperor, the people around them heard their conversation and were puzzled. The Black Iron Supreme Emperor was from the 9 States territory. If he died in the Middle State territory, the Red Moon would not be involved, right? The sloppy man's sleepy face turned cold. He said in a deep voice, "I'd like to see how I can't protect this person." The red-robed lady did not continue to attack. Instead, she withdrew her divine power. She looked at Long Chen and murmured, "The Black Iron Supreme Emperor was asked by the patrolling Divine King to be recruited by my clan." When the sloppy man heard the red-robed lady's words and heard the patrolling Divine King's name, he was even more shocked. In just a few breaths, the sloppy man took a deep breath and said coldly, "If that's the case, the Red Moon can't get away with this. Since this person was recruited by the patrolling Divine King, how could you let him participate in the palace examination?" Who couldn't tell that he already knew the questions? When the people around heard the patrolling Divine King's name, their expressions changed. Everyone subconsciously shifted their gazes away from Long Chen. There was even a sense of alienation in their eyes. Patrolling Divine King? Long Chen frowned when he heard the argument between the two. He had never thought that killing an Emperor Realm Master from the 9 continents territory would bring him such trouble. However, Long Chen could tell. No matter who this Divine King patrolling formation was, he was definitely related to the Red Moon. While Long Chen was thinking, he saw the tall woman in the red robe rise into the air. She looked at him and said, "If you don't want to implicate the people of Bai Yishen, it's better for you to abolish your cultivation and follow me to ask for forgiveness." Although the patrolling Divine King will not kill the people of Bai Yishen for such a person, the people of Bai Yishen will most likely suffer a great loss. When that time comes, you will still die. The red-robed woman's words were harsh, as if she was high and mighty. Upon hearing this, Long Chen's pupils suddenly shrank, and he replied coldly, "Before this person fought with me, you didn't say a single word and even deliberately provoked him to fight to the death with me. Now that this person has lost, he wants me to cripple his cultivation as an apology. What a joke!" As Long Chen spoke, he had already walked between the people of Bai Yishen and the Red Moon. He looked at the people participating in the palace examination under the Red Moon and suddenly said in a voice like spring thunder, "Everyone, please go back. Today, under the Red Moon, no one of the venerable sovereigns will pass the palace examination. I will return to the Red Moon the 72 reasons why a 2nd stage venerable sovereign defeated a 4th stage venerable sovereign without changing anything." Long Chen's voice spread throughout the area covered by the 10-star artifacts. The people in charge of the 10 divine clans could not help but look at Long Chen. This was really overbearing, but it also meant that he had completely offended the Red Moon. Immediately, the divine clans could not help but shake their heads and laugh. If the Black Iron Sovereign was really the person the patrolling Divine King wanted, then the Red Moon would definitely not let Long Chen go even if he died here. What was the difference between offending him and not offending him? The red-robed Venerable Sovereign's face finally turned gloomy, but he could not refute Long Chen's words. If Long Chen could really tell them the 72 reasons, then the Red Moon would not be so capricious. After all, the Black Iron Sovereign was the first to use this method, and they had tacitly agreed to it. The sloppy man and the old Master Luo saw Long Chen's actions and felt the pressure in their hearts disappear. He felt really good about venting his anger. The other venerable sovereigns participating in the palace examination behind Long Chen were also happy when they heard this. Long Chen's actions had helped them win a round. If Long Chen did not lose, then they could all pass the palace examination directly and enter the people of Bai Yishen. Under the eyes of everyone, there were still a few people participating in the palace examination in front of the Red Moon who still had a glimmer of hope and went forward to debate with Long Chen. In the end, they were all defeated. It was as Long Chen had said. He clearly knew the reason behind the 72 locations. In less than an hour, all the venerable sovereigns had left under the influence of the Red Moon's star artifact. This situation made the other 8 divine clans sigh. No one had expected Long Chen to completely change the situation of the battle. Time ticked by. The palace examination gradually came to an end. Nearly half of the venerable sovereigns had to leave the palace examination area. The venerable sovereigns who stayed behind had similar cultivation levels, but their battle awareness was much stronger than those who had left. In contrast, the people of Baiyi Shen, where Long Chen was from, had also obtained many venerable sovereigns. On the contrary, the Red Moon was slightly inferior. In the Red Moon, the red-robed venerable sovereign's face was as cold as ice. Her originally beautiful face was now so cold that people could not help but look away. She looked at the people of Baiyi Shen and the new venerable sovereigns and said angrily, "You'd better think clearly. This time, entering the people of Baiyi Shen is an enemy of the Red Moon." After she finished speaking, she led her clansmen and the many venerable sovereigns and emperors onto the star instrument and disappeared into the sky. The sloppy man and the old master Luo could not help but shake their heads. The red-robed woman's words were already somewhat unscrupulous. It seemed that the Red Moon would soon launch an attack on the people of Baiyi Shen. The sloppy man walked in front of Long Chen and glanced at the immeasurable emperor, Zhuzang Dizuan, and the black-robed white-boned divine king behind him. He said, "What you did today really helped the people of Baiyi Shen to vent their anger. Our clan will definitely help you deal with the patrolling divine king. Since the 4 of you are together, then follow us back to the people of Baiyi Shen." Long Chen nodded, and the few of them quickly stepped onto the silver-gray star magic tool. When they turned around, they found that among the many venerable sovereigns who were originally participating in the court examination, 9 of them had actually refused to go to the people of Baiyi Shen. Old Master Luo tried to persuade them, but in the end, he could only snort coldly and leave helplessly. The sloppy man saw Long Chen and the others watching this scene from afar and said, "You may not know the relationship between our clan and the Red Moon, and the background of the patrolling divine king." Chapter 965. The Zhuzang Dizuan's straightforward answer surprised Long Chen, but it also showed his straightforwardness. He had always been in the 9 Treasures realm and was cherished by the 9 Treasures God Kings. It was very rare for him to have such a temperament. As the palace examination came to an end, all the god clans continued to fly toward Zhong province with their participants. The speed of the 10-star artifacts was extremely fast, at least 3 times faster than that of a venerable sovereign. 3 days later, Long Chen and the others followed the sloppy man to the so-called people of Baiyi Shen. It was nighttime. Long Chen and the others could not help but exclaim in surprise. The people of Baiyi Shen covered an area of 1 million square miles, and the buildings inside were all made of white jade. The moonlight shone down, and the sky was filled with a silvery glow. The land of 1 million square miles was like day in the dark night, transparent and magnificent. Buzz. The silver-gray star artifacts came to an abrupt stop at the edge of the light of the people of Baiyi Shen. The sloppy man's eyes fell on Long Chen and the others, then swept over the other venerable sovereigns and emperors. He took a deep breath and said, "This is the people of Baiyi Shen. There are 10 god kings in our clan, and I, Bai Yeshing, am the patriarch." The venerable sovereigns nodded excitedly. The Zhong province was vast and boundless. Although the people of Baiyi Shen were from the Earth Source God clan, they were just at the edge of the Zhong province. However, even this clan, which recruited talents through the palace examination, had 10 god kings. Outside the Zhong province, there were dozens of realms, and there was only 1 god king in each of them. But now, as soon as they set foot in the Zhong province, the first clan they came into contact with had 10 god kings. "May I ask who the patrolling god king is? And what is the grudge between the Red Moon and the people of Baiyi Shen?" After a brief exclamation, a middle-aged venerable sovereign could not help but ask. As soon as this question came out, all the venerable sovereigns turned their eyes to Bai Yeshing. Everyone knew that although Bai Yeshing was the clan leader of the people of Bai Yishen, his cultivation base was only at the peak of the sovereign realm, and he was quite kind. So, they asked him directly. Long Chen and the others also looked at Bai Yeshing. They wanted to know more about God King patrolling array and the Red Moon. Putting aside the fact that there was a rift between him and the Red Moon in this court examination, the fact that the Ethereal King and the White Bone King had joined the Red Moon meant that he had to find out the reason behind it. The battle between the Ethereal King and the White Bone Deity King's virtual soul would not end here. Upon hearing their questions, Bai Yeshing shook his head slightly. He did not intend to hide anything from them. The enmity between the Red Moon and the people of Bai Yishen had to be traced back to their ancestors, so he did not say much. It only meant that the Red Moon now had 15 King of Gods. As for the patrolling God King, he gave a rather clear explanation. This man had no force in this place. He was all alone. To be more precise, he was the leader of this place. He was also a man sent by a certain Tianyuan divine clan to manage this place. His words caused many emperors and emperors to gasp in shock. The Red Moon had 5 more King of Gods than the people of Bai Yishen, and the Black Iron Sovereign, whom Long Chen had killed, was the person the patrolling God King had asked for. He would certainly vent his anger on the people of Bai Yishen because of this. Long Chen could not help smiling bitterly when he saw the people behind him had the intention to leave. This Bai Yeshing was a straightforward person. If he had been a little vague about the strength of the patrolling God King and the Red Moon, he might have been able to keep more people here. Sure enough, in just a few dozen breaths, nearly half of the sovereigns had bowed to Bai Yeshing and left, while many sovereigns had turned and left. Although they were willing to join the divine clans in Zhong Province as a springboard to integrate into the Zhong Province, it seemed that this springboard could be shattered at any time. Old Master Luo, who had been silent all this time, saw more and more people leaving, and his face darkened. But just as he was about to take 2 steps forward, he was stopped by Bai Yeshing. Since they have passed the court examination, it's up to you whether they want to stay or leave, said Bai Yeshing. Old Master Luo only snorted coldly, but his eyes were fixed on the black-robed man behind the immeasurable emperor. As soon as his eyes fell, he saw the immeasurable emperor had walked up to Long Chen and asked in a low voice, "Amateus, everything is up to fate. Why don't we leave as well?" The veins on the top of the old Master Luo's head bulged. But when he saw Long Chen and Zhang Dizuan did not say anything, he suppressed his anger. In the end, there were only 10 sovereigns left, including Long Chen and Zhang Dizuan. Long Chen took a step forward and said to Bai Yeshing, "I wonder if your Excellency's words are true? If so, the 4 of us will stay in the people of Bai Yishen." Bai Yeshing paused for a moment, then said, "Of course I'm serious. Since you have passed the court examination and joined our clan, you are now one of us. Of course, we will take care of the patrolling divine king for you." When Bai Yeshing saw that no one was leaving, he waved his hand and motioned for Old Master Luo to bring them into the clan. Under the arrangement of Old Master Luo, Long Chen and the others were given a palace made of white jade. As soon as they entered the palace, they felt the aura of sovereigns rising and falling one after another. Long Chen and the others could not help but release their sovereign's pressure. Whether it was Long Chen or the others, they could not help but look shocked. In this palace alone, there were nearly 4,000 to 5,000 sovereigns' auras. Seeing this, Old Master Luo said with a smile, "This is their usual practice. Once someone enters the clan after participating in the court examination, they will use this place to check. It can also be considered a greeting." Everyone nodded and dispersed the divine power around them. Zhang Dizuan could not help but ask, "The people of Bai Yishen has 10 god kings, so logically speaking, there should be 10,000 sovereigns. But if there are thousands of sovereigns in this palace, I'm afraid it has exceeded the limit by a lot. Old Master Luo nodded and replied, originally, this was not the case, but since the fall of the ancient Saint Emperor, more and more people have stopped abiding by this rule. As long as we don't make them swear an oath on the inextinguishable Tao law, it will be fine. These people are all foreign dignitaries. After that, old Master Luo took the lead and left. Idiot! In Long Chen's soul, the sovereign emperor's remnant soul was angry and shouted, in the long run, this will only accelerate the collapse of the inextinguishable Tao law. When that time comes, the entire ancient saint divine world will face a disaster. Long Chen shook his head and did not say anything. At this point, no one could control the changes of the ancient saint divine world. Everyone chose their rooms to stay in. Long Chen and the others chose 3 rooms that were adjacent to each other. The immeasurable emperor and the white bone god king stayed in the middle room to avoid any danger. A day later. Chapter 966. Inside the people of Bai Yishin. After Long Chen and the others moved in, many divine medicines were sent to the people of Bai Yishin every day. These things were of no use to Long Chen. However, they were of great use to the immeasurable emperor, and even the Zhizong Dizuan was quite interested in them. Long Chen chose to stay behind closed doors and began to fuse with the remains of the sovereign lord he had obtained from the 9 treasures realm. There was not much origin energy in these remains, but if he fused them all, it should not be a problem for Long Chen to reach the 6th or even 7th stage of the sovereign realm. On the other hand, the world-suppressing cauldron's handle was also given to the Sovereign Lord's remnant soul in the depths of the Dragon Palace along with the 9 firmament halberd. The Primal Chaos Golden Codex and the Dragon Palace had already fused with Long Chen's divine soul, but they seemed to have formed a world of their own. Day after day passed. Long Chen chose to stay in the people of Bai Yishin because he had no choice. The patrolling God King's cultivation base must be extremely high, and he was simply a giant to him. If he really wanted to attack him because of the Black Iron Sovereign, it would be a big problem. Instead of that, he might as well stay in the people of Bai Yishin. Sure enough, on the 10th day of their arrival, a divine light fell from the 9th heaven. The golden light was monstrous, and countless divine flames spread across millions of miles. Under the scorching aura, even sovereigns felt like their skin was about to explode. Following the scorching aura and the boundless golden light, one could only see a palm-sized array flag fluttering in the wind. As soon as the array flag fluttered, thousands of divine arrays appeared, each of which was a fire array. Where is Bai Yishing? Come with me to see the patrolling God King. A soul fire spirit appeared on the array flag. Its body seemed to be made of magma, and it spoke in human language. Bai Yishing flew up, landed under the array flag with a respectful expression, and then flew away with the array flag. Although the array flag had left, the boundless flames and the array patterns that filled the sky did not dissipate. The violent firepower did not dissipate, causing the people of Bai Yishin to be in an extremely oppressive atmosphere. Who is that Long Chen? All of this happened because of him. Why did he kill during the palace examination? The patrolling God Kings used the fire spirit array flags to come. I'm afraid that even if this matter is resolved, they will still have to pay a great price. The Patriarch is too unwise. Impudent! How dare you discuss the matters of the Patriarch? Under such circumstances, more and more people were dissatisfied with Long Chen. Many people even found the residence of Long Chen and the others. For a time, many emperors surrounded the residence of Long Chen and the others and cursed them. Old Master Luo couldn't persuade them otherwise. The leaders of the venerable sovereigns were all from the people of Bai Yishin, so they completely ignored his words. Inside the room, Long Chen had already stopped fusing with the Emperor Master's sources, but his cultivation had already reached the 5th layer Emperor realm. The immeasurable emperor and Zhang Dizuan were also in his room. Zhang Dizuan coldly snorted and said, "How can these people be so ignorant? They have no idea what happened during the palace examination, yet they blame everything on you. If it weren't for you, the people of Baiyishan probably wouldn't have been able to bring back a single person." Compared to Zhang Dizuan, the immeasurable emperor was very calm. He directly said, "The people of this world are all ignorant. Why would they care about right and wrong? 2 people are followers, 3 people make a crowd. They don't dare to violate the rules of the clan. What can they do even if we walk out?" Long Chen frowned slightly. Compared to Zhang Dizuan's naivety, the immeasurable emperor was already considered shameless. If it was in the past, what he said would be reasonable. However, today was different. Long Chen said in a deep voice, "Someone is targeting us this time. Otherwise, this matter would not have escalated to such a state in such a short time." As the clan leader of the people of Baiyishan, although Bai Yeshing was only a venerable sovereign, he certainly had some means. Since he had agreed to help Long Chen, he would naturally suppress this matter. Besides, he had seen Long Chen's potential with his own eyes, and there was also God King Bai Gu beside him. These were the reasons why he was willing to help Long Chen stop the patrolling God Kings. As soon as Bai Yeshing left, the whole matter had gone out of control like a wildfire. Naturally, there was something fishy about it. Long Chen had also found a few people with the help of the sovereign's soul. Now, these people were standing among the crowd. They were the Danite God clan's main branch, venerable sovereigns. Long Chen pondered for a moment, then suddenly said, "Let's go out and have a look. If this clan really can't be kept alive, this is the only way." Zhang Dizuan snorted coldly and followed closely behind Long Chen. Creak. As soon as the door opened, the cursing voices suddenly stopped. Long Chen immediately looked at the people at the front of the crowd. Among the 3 people, 2 were 6th-layer venerable sovereigns, and 1 was 7th-layer venerable sovereigns. "You've finally come out. We thought you were going to be a coward for the rest of your life." The short man on the left of the 3 took the lead and stepped forward, his face full of ridicule. As soon as his voice fell, the scolding voices of the venerable sovereigns rose one after another from all directions. Long Chen's pupils suddenly shrank. Sure enough, among the crowd there were nearly 10 people jeering. Long Chen snorted coldly, his eyes narrowed slightly as he stared at the short man, and said coldly, "Since you are the main venerable sovereigns of the people of Baiyishan, why are you targeting us?" The short man raised his hand, motioning for the noise to quiet down, and replied, "Targeting you? If you hadn't killed the Black Iron Sovereign, how could our clan leader have been taken away by Hua Qi? Patrolling Divine King, how many things will our clan have to offer to compensate you for this? You're just a venerable sovereign. Get out of our clan. Get out of our clan. Get out." Seeing this, Old Master Luo hurriedly stepped forward and said to Long Chen, "You go back for the time being. We'll talk about this when our clan leader comes back." Long Chen stared at the 3 people and the countless people who were jeering, and suddenly said in a thunderous voice, "I'd like to know, who is the leader of the people of Baiyishan? We were personally recruited by the clan leader of the people of Baiyishan, Bai Yeshing, and we passed the palace examination. What does this have to do with you?" The short man's eyes suddenly turned livid when he heard this, and he said in a deep voice, "Don't flatter me. Our clan leader is naturally the leader, but I don't think you are worth our clan paying such a price for." As soon as he finished speaking, the other 2 nodded. Before Long Chen could open his mouth, the middle-aged man next to the short man stepped forward and said with a sneer, "It is said that you defeated the Black Iron Sovereign. What's the point of saying so much today? Just fight with the 3 of us." Old Master Luo's face changed dramatically when he saw this, and he hurriedly rushed forward. He bowed in front of the short man and said, "You can't do this, you absolutely can't." Chapter 967. Under everyone's watchful eyes, old Master Luo was sent flying. The short man had already attacked Long Chen. He was a sixth-stage Emperor Realm Master, and his divine power was like a tidal wave. Although his cultivation was similar to the Black Iron Supreme Emperor's, his divine power was far richer than the Black Iron Supreme Emperor's. A ring-shaped magic artifact that looked like a full moon appeared in his hand. Moonlight shone from the magic artifact, and its brilliance soared into the sky. It turned into thousands of Taoist rhymes that fell directly on Long Chen. The moonlight shone, and the moonlight Taoist rhymes enveloped Long Chen. The ring-shaped magic artifact rose in front of the short man. Seeing that Long Chen was trapped, a disdainful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He said, "Looks like you're nothing. You only defeated an ordinary sixth-stage Emperor Realm Master. How dare you be so presumptuous in front of me?" The Zhang Dizuan saw that Long Chen was trapped, and he seemed to be furious at the actions of these people. He was about to rush out. However, the immeasurable emperor stopped him and said, "Benefactor, please wait a moment. This is the people of Bai Yishen, after all. Don't make a big deal out of it. Long Chen is fine." On the other side, the crowd's clamor grew louder. "Is this the candidate of the palace examination that our clan recruited? He was trapped by the moonlight forbidden artifact so easily. Once trapped by this magic artifact, not to mention that he's only a fourth-stage Emperor Realm Master, even if he's in the same realm, he'll have to pay a great price to escape." The short man seemed to be very pleased with himself when he heard the commotion around him. The middle-aged man beside him said calmly, "Just kill him. There's no need to show any mercy." It was unknown when Elder Luo rushed over again. He shouted, "Young Master Bai Zijuan, this man is someone that clan head Bai Yeshing wants to protect personally. Moreover, he has a god king behind him that can enter our clan." The middle-aged man did not seem to be affected by the mention of a divine king. Instead, he revealed a playful look. A divine light flashed in his right hand, and he attacked old Master Luo again. This time, half of old Master Luo's body was shattered. Zhang Dizuan's face was ashen as he roared, "Why isn't he fighting back or dodging?" When the short man heard this, he couldn't help but laugh. "He's just a dog of my clan. How would he dare to attack Zijuan?" As soon as this person finished speaking, divine light appeared in his hands once again, and he reached out to grab Long Chen's moonlight. Just as the divine radiance was about to kill, a beam of divine radiance shot up into the sky. It was unknown when Long Chen had already grasped the Nine Heavens halberd. At this moment, the Nine Firmament halberd was simple in color and the patterns on it became more and more solid. The Taoist rhymes around it circulated, and there was no longer a trace of decay. "I'd like to see how you're going to kill me today," Long Chen roared as he descended from the sky with his halberd in hand. Rumble! The halberd pierced through the air with a myriad of roars. Anyone who got close to it felt as if their soul was being suppressed by a giant mountain. The short man also felt the terror of the dragon chariot's attack. He poured out all of his divine power and pushed forward with both hands. The moon ring magic artifact once again fell towards Long Chen. Crack! Crack! At this moment, something happened that made everyone's jaws drop. Under the halberd's attack, the moon ring magic artifact was smashed into pieces. The halberd also directly suppressed the divine power around the short man's body. After a muffled sound, the short man's body was smashed into pieces. Hiss! Everyone around sucked in a breath of cold air and stared at Long Chen in horror. No one would have thought that he, who had been trapped by the moon ring magic artifact a moment ago, would have such a thunderous force in the next moment. In the blink of an eye, he had smashed his sixth-level Emperor Realm opponent into pieces. The short man's soul was suppressed by the halberd, and his face was filled with extreme fear. Even old Master Luo, who was not far away, was stunned in place. Long Chen's battle prowess today had already surpassed that of his battle with the Black Iron Supreme Emperor a few days ago. The face of the middle-aged man beside the short man immediately turned ashen. Divine light was about to spread out from his body. Before he could move, he felt the divine light around him suddenly stagnate. He saw that the halberd, which carried the short man's soul, had already landed in front of him and was pointing directly at his forehead. Long Chen narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Do you still want to test my battle prowess and qualifications?" On the halberd, boundless suppressive power fluctuated unsteadily. The crowd behind the middle-aged man had already quieted down. He looked at the short man's soul on Long Chen's halberd, then stared at Long Chen's cold eyes. He actually let out a cold snort and dispersed the divine power around him. Long Chen's halberd shook and directly smashed the short man's soul to the ground. Under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, this short battle shut everyone's mouths. In just a few moves, he was able to kill an Earth Origin Divine Clan member, who was 2 levels higher than him. This battle prowess alone was enough to explain everything. There were still a few people in the crowd who tried to kick up a fuss, but no one followed suit. Even Bai Zijuan, who was at Sovereign Realm Level 7, did not dare to accept Long Chen's challenge. There was no need for this matter to continue. After the short shock, Old Master Luo saw that Long Chen had returned to his room. He immediately went forward and ordered the sovereigns and onlookers to leave. Only Bai Zijuan and the other 2, who were at Sovereign Realm Level 7, did not leave. The short man's soul was extremely weak, and there was still some lingering fear in his eyes. Under the halberd, his soul was as thin as a piece of paper. "Let's go." After a long while, Bai Zijuan took a deep look at Long Chen's room, then slowly left with the other 2. Seeing this, Old Master Luo shook his head and sighed. He muttered to himself, "This is going to be troublesome. I hope the clan leader will return soon." After saying this, Old Master Luo did not have the intention to leave. Instead, he walked toward the room where Long Chen and the others were. Long Chen and the others knew that Old Master Luo had come and invited him in. When Old Master Luo saw Long Chen, he cupped his fists and said, "Thank you for showing mercy today. There are still many things in our clan that we don't understand. When the clan leader returns, he will definitely settle it." On the other side, after Bai Zijuan and the other 2 left the palace area where Long Chen and the others were, they came to a deserted area. The short man's face turned sinister as he said unwillingly, "Zijuan, we can't let this matter rest." Bai Zijuan's killing intent surged as he stared at the short man and said, "Of course, we won't let this matter rest. However, we will have to trouble you." Buzz. Just as he finished speaking, he saw his right hand suddenly fall towards the short man who was only a spirit. Pucci. The short man's divine soul instantly shattered into a cloud of smoke that filled the sky. The expression of the other person beside Bai Zijuan instantly changed as he looked at this scene in shock. Before he could say anything, Bai Zijuan said, "Bai Feng was assassinated by Long Chen and died an unnatural death. Go and tell his father about this. Do you understand?" When the short man heard this, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. He quickly said, I understand. After saying this, Chapter 968. After a discussion with Old Master Luo, Long Chen already had a rough idea of what was going on in the people of Bai Yixin. Although Bai Yexing was the patriarch, his strength was only at the sovereign realm. He had only been the patriarch for a few decades. Although the power of the clan was growing, many people in the main branch were still itching to make trouble. Among them, Bai Zijuan's father was the most powerful, and he had the support of several god kings in the clan. Bai Zijuan's father was also a god king expert. After Old Master Luo left, Long Chen and the other 3 all felt that the disturbance in the people of Bai Yixin would not die down just like that. Zhizong Dizuan asked Long Chen, Why don't you just blast them to pieces? That way they can learn from their mistakes. Long Chen shook his head and said, I just want to intimidate them so that they won't be too unscrupulous. But, if I touch Bai Zijuan today, I'm afraid it will cause a lot of unnecessary trouble. Long Chen knew very well that things had not come to that point yet. If Bai Yexing returned, perhaps everything would be solved easily. Zhang Dizuan gave Long Chen a deep look and murmured, I finally know why Father asked me to follow you for a year, Long Chen, and the immeasurable emperor smiled, and said nothing. In other words, if he could defeat the three men like Long Chen, with Zhang Dizuan's temperament, he would probably kill them all today. In that case, the people of Bai Yixin would probably cause a great disturbance, and they would have to find a way to escape with the power of God King White Bones. In the next few days, Long Chen and the others had decided to stay in the room and wait for Bai Yexing's return. The next day old Master Luo had returned, and before dawn, he was already in front of Long Chen's room. When he saw Long Chen, his face was gloomy. After a long while, he said to Long Chen in a low voice, You left a secret technique in Bai Feng's soul. As soon as these words were spoken, Long Chen was first startled, then he could not help but laugh bitterly. He thought that after yesterday's incident, everything would calm down for a while. But he never thought that after just one night, bad news would come. Long Chen stared at old Master Luo and shook his head. Is Bai Feng dead? Old Master Luo snorted coldly. He thought of the day when Long Chen's magical inscriptions killed the Black Iron Supreme Venerable's spirit. He said, Yesterday, my spirit was destroyed halfway through my journey. The immeasurable Emperor and Zhang Dizuan couldn't help but glance at Long Chen. When Long Chen saw their expressions, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But in his heart, he regarded Bai Zijuan with more importance. This person knew when to yield and when not to. His methods were ruthless and decisive. Once Bai Feng died, all the blame would fall on him. No one would give him a chance to speak. If he hadn't told the immeasurable Emperor and Zhang Dizuan that he had no intention of killing Bai Feng, they would have believed that it was Long Chen who did it. Old Master Luo, do you think that Long Chen is such a stupid person? What's the difference between killing him and killing him on the spot? Long Chen still tried to explain to old Master Luo, if I really wanted to break off relations with the people of Bai Yixin, I could have killed all three of them yesterday. Old Master Luo took a deep look at the white bone deity king behind the immeasurable emperor and said coldly, Isn't this what you're relying on? Since I came here today, I'm giving you a chance. Long Chen sighed. He naturally knew what old Master Luo meant. He said, You want me to swear an oath on the inextinguishable Tao law, but I can't. I did indeed shatter his physical body, and even suppressed his soul to a weak state. After that, he died. Elder Luo was startled by Long Chen's words. Soon after, he furrowed his brows. Just as Long Chen said, if he swore an oath on the inextinguishable Tao law, it would be the cause of Bai Feng's death. Seeing old Master Luo's expression, Long Chen continued, Although I can't swear an oath on the inextinguishable Tao law, I can assure you that I didn't kill Bai Feng. The injuries I sustained that day definitely wouldn't cause his death. Old Master Luo stared at Long Chen and didn't say anything for a long time. Although he felt that something was amiss, he wasn't willing to believe that Bai Zijuan would kill Bai Feng. Bai Zijuan and Bai Feng grew up together and were both descendants of the main family. If he really dared to disregard the clan's rules and kill Bai Feng, it would be a heinous crime. Old Master Luo snorted and turned to leave. He said, I'll help you block all of this. Wait for the clan leader to come back and make a decision. It's best that you don't leave this place. Otherwise, no matter how powerful you are, only death awaits you. After old Master Luo left, Zhang Dizuan finally understood what Long Chen meant. He also finally saw the outcome of killing a descendant of the people of Bai Yixin's main family. Amateus, The immeasurable emperor clasped his hands together and stared at Long Chen with a worried expression. You really didn't kill him? This penniless monk also thinks that you can do it. However, if I were you, I would think of a way to kill the three of you together. Long Chen glared at the immeasurable emperor and snorted. If I really wanted to kill him, I would have left the people of Bai Yishen yesterday. I would have left long ago. Zhang Dizuan was stunned. He felt that compared to Long Chen and the immeasurable emperor, he was really too naive. As the three of them conversed, they felt that the situation was getting more and more serious. They looked at each other and smiled bitterly. No one would have thought that after entering the God realm, not only would there be no convenience, there would be so much trouble. This is really troublesome. It seems that Bai Feng's position in the God realm isn't low. The immeasurable emperor placed his right hand on Little White's shoulder and said helplessly, Bai Zijuan really has some tricks up his sleeve. Long Chen's face was already slightly ashen. He and the immeasurable emperor both felt 4 terrifying auras outside. These auras were definitely not from venerable sovereigns, but 4 divine kings. The 4 divine kings seemed to be constantly paying attention to this place, but they didn't make a move. Long Chen let out a long sigh. It seems that old Master Luo really did something. Otherwise, I'm afraid that we might have to fight with our lives on the line today. After saying that, Long Chen suddenly asked Zhang Dizuan, What level of divine king is your father, 9 treasures divine king? Has he reached the late stage of divine king? Zhang Dizuan was stunned. He didn't know what Long Chen meant. However, hearing his father's name made him very uncomfortable. He said impatiently, 7th or 8th level of divine king. Anyway, he's already at the late stage of divine king. He still talks about me every day. Chapter 969. The People of Bai Yishen. Ever since Bai Yeshing, the patriarch, left, Long Chen and the others were pushed to the heart of the struggle. Several god kings in the clan even had the intention to fight against him as an equal. Old Master Luo acted very cowardly in front of Bai Zijuan that day, but he still had some means to protect Long Chen and the others. On the other side, in the north court of the people of Bai Yishen, many influential people of the main branch gathered. In the main hall that was neither big nor small, there were more than a dozen middle-aged men on both sides. Bai Zijuan was standing in the middle, and a white-haired old man was sitting on the main seat in front of him. The divine radiance around this old man was restrained, and a cold glint could be vaguely seen in his eyes, making people feel very oppressed. He was Bai Zijuan's father, Bai Tsang. Bai Tsang was also one of the God King experts of the people of Bai Yishen. Before Bai Tsang could speak, a middle-aged man with a steel-like face on the left stood up and said loudly, Brother Bai Tsang, you have contributed your whole life to the clan. It's your turn to be the patriarch. That Bai Yeshing is just a venerable sovereign. How can he be the patriarch for dozens of years? Bai Tsang narrowed his eyes and pressed his right hand down slightly. His voice was like muffled thunder as he said, Yeshing's contribution to the clan over these years is not bad, and I have seen it. Let's not talk about the patriarch's position for now. Long Chen's matter must be resolved. As Bai Tsang's voice fell, the people around him nodded. On the contrary, Bai Zijuan, who was behind him, frowned and his face was somewhat gloomy. Bai Zijuan suddenly stood out from behind Bai Tsang and knelt on one knee. He said with sorrow, Father, Bai Feng and I have known each other since we were young. I can't absolve myself from the blame for his death today. However, that Long Chen must pay with his life. Otherwise, where will the dignity of the people of Bai Yishen be? Boom! Bai Zijuan's voice fell. On the third seat on the left, the tables and chairs were directly crushed into powder. An old man with a head full of white hair slowly stood up. Killing intent was faintly discernible from his entire body, and he was overflowing with rage as he said, Bai Tsang, I must cut that Long Chen into pieces. Bai Feng is my only son. The people in the hall shook their heads one after another. Soon after, they were unable to restrain their anger and began to shout angrily. If old Master Luo hadn't reported this matter to the God King elders, today's matter wouldn't have been so troublesome. A mere venerable emperor would have been killed. That Long Chen is just someone who was recruited for the court examination. How dare he attack the main branch so brazenly? He deserves to die. What right does Bai Yeshing have to be the clan head? He has just left, and he has already alerted the Hall of Elders for a man who has just joined the clan. If it weren't for his order, perhaps even that old Master Luo wouldn't have been able to persuade a God King expert. Bai Tsong's expression gradually turned cold, and he said coldly, "Everyone, don't worry. If Long Chen doesn't die, I'll personally take over the position of the head of the Nightwalker family." In the courtyard where Long Chen and the others were staying, more and more people had gathered in the past few days. Among the people of Bai Yishen, both the venerable emperors and the main branch were furious. If it weren't for the 4 God King experts standing above the courtyard, these people would have rushed in and torn Long Chen and the others to shreds. Inside the room, when Long Chen and the other 2 heard the thunderous sounds of fighting and killing outside, they all smiled bitterly. Although the 4 God Kings had imprisoned Long Chen and the others, they had also helped them block the people of Bai Yishen. Day after day. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed. 3 days ago, Long Chen had finished fusing with the remains of the Sovereign Lord that he had obtained from the 9 Treasures realm. His cultivation had also risen to the 6th layer of the Venerable Emperor realm. But he could clearly feel it. In the central state, a Venerable Emperor was really nothing. If he wanted to gain a foothold as soon as possible, he had to continue searching for the remains of the Sovereign Lord. Only then could he reach the God King realm. On the other hand, Long Chen had been discussing with the Sovereign Lord's remnant soul for a long time. He wanted to prove that Bai Feng didn't die in his hands. He didn't want to completely break off his relationship with the people of Bai Yishen. The hostility between the people of Bai Yishen and the Red Moon was a great help to him. After all, the Ethereal King and the White Bone God King were in the Red Moon at the moment. At noon, when the scorching sun was at its peak, the pressure of the God Kings suddenly disappeared without a trace. Long Chen and the others immediately felt as if they were facing a great enemy. The formations that had been set up in the room were also activated to the extreme. The Sovereign Lord's remnant soul stretched out immediately. Long Chen breathed a long sigh of relief and said, "Bai Yeshing is back. This matter should come to an end." That being said, Long Chen and the others had no intention of removing the formations in the room. "Brother Long Chen, just open the door and come out. Before the matter is cleared up, the 4 God King elders behind me will definitely protect you." Bai Yeshing's voice came from afar, but it was full of weakness. Long Chen and the others looked at each other, then they removed the formations and pushed the door open. Outside the door, when the people of Bai Yishen saw Long Chen come out, they immediately burst into an uproar. "It's him. He's just a disciple of Zhao Lan in the palace examination. How dare he kill Bai Feng? Why is the Patriarch still talking to him? Just kill him. Although he was personally recruited by the Patriarch, if we don't kill him today, where will the dignity of the people of Bai Yishen go?" When Long Chen and the others heard the clamor and the killing intent in all directions, they felt helpless. Bai Zijuan's move had really pushed them to the opposite side of the entire people of Bai Yishen. Bai Yeshing slowly walked out of the crowd, followed by the 4 God King elders. All 4 of them were dressed in silver-white robes that covered their whole bodies, which made them look somewhat similar to the God King White Bones behind the immeasurable emperor. When Bai Yeshing stood in front of the crowd, everyone felt that his face had turned a little pale. But when Long Chen approached him, his expression suddenly changed. They were only a few meters apart. The sovereign lord's remnant soul immediately felt that almost half of his source energy had been sucked away. Although his cultivation base had not changed, he was afraid that he could not defeat any late-stage sovereign lord with his real combat strength. Phew! Long Chen's expression changed slightly. He took a deep breath and said to Bai Yeshing, "Thank you for your trouble, Your Excellency. We've really troubled you these days." A smile tugged at the corner of Bai Yeshing's mouth. He waved his hand sloppily and said to Long Chen, "Let's go. Follow me to the Elder Hall. I'll make a decision about Bai Feng." As soon as he said that, the immeasurable emperor already had the intention to retreat. The Elder Hall would be filled with God Kings, and the main branch of the people of Bai Yishen would also be there. If there were any changes at that time, it would be like catching a turtle in a jar. Long Chen suddenly nodded and said in a deep voice, "Although I can't swear by the inextinguishable law of Tao, I've found a way to prove that I'm not the one who killed Bai Feng." Bai Yeshing's pupils constricted slightly, but he did not reply. Instead, he led the 4 God Kings away. Long Chen and the others followed closely behind. Chapter 970. Inside the people of Bai Yishen, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Long Chen and the others followed Bai Yeshing to the Hall of Elders. The Hall of Elders was located at the highest place in the people of Bai Yishen, where all the God Kings gathered. Many people from the main bloodline, as well as those who were qualified to enter the Hall of Elders, followed closely behind them. Along the way, countless murderous eyes were fixed on Long Chen, and many people were shouting and yelling. "How dare he come to the Hall of Elders? This place will be his burial ground. He must be the one who killed Bai Feng. Otherwise, why didn't he swear on the inextinguishable law of Tao? He deserves to die. I'd like to see how he distorts right and wrong. How dare he say he didn't kill Bai Feng? What a joke." When Bai Yeshing saw that, he whispered to Long Chen, "If you really didn't do it, perhaps I've implicated you." Long Chen did not answer, but he could guess what he meant. The reason why Bai Zijuan was so against him was most likely because of the position of patriarch. Inside the Hall of Elders, it was solemn. On the right sat 4 old men who were also clad in long robes, and each of them looked dignified. 5 of them were sitting, while the rest were standing. The 6th was Bai Tsang, who was sitting in the main seat, and Bai Zijuan was still standing behind him. The noisy crowd had completely quieted down. After Bai Yeshing arrived with Long Chen and the others, he bowed and stopped in front of the hall. Only the 4 God Kings behind him walked to the left and sat down. Bai Yeshing was the first to speak. "I'm sorry for troubling you all these days when I was not in the clan." Bai Yeshing's posture was very low, and his words were very polite. But a God King on the right suddenly cried out in a deep voice, "Do you really think we can't see your purpose of recruiting this man? It's all because of the God King behind him." Before Bai Yeshing could speak, Bai Zijuan suddenly said, "Elder, please don't misunderstand the patriarch. Recruiting a God King is a great help to our clan. Besides, I believe the patriarch will not let a God King from a foreign clan enter the Hall of Elders." Everyone in the surroundings who understood the situation could tell that Bai Zijuan's words were not friendly. He seemed to be speaking for Bai Yeshing, but in fact, he was telling everyone that everything that happened these days was because of Bai Yeshing's selfishness. When Long Chen heard this, a smile suddenly appeared on the corner of his mouth. Even the immeasurable monarch understood what had happened in the past few days. The most fundamental reason was because of the God King-level skeletal creature behind the immeasurable emperor. Apparently, some of the 10 God Kings in the people of Bai Yishen did not want Bai Yeshing to seek the support of more God Kings. Just as Bai Zijuan finished speaking, his father, Bai Tsang, frowned and berated, "Zijuan, you're allowed to enter the hall to listen. Don't say anything." But Bai Yeshing waved his hand with a smile and said, "It's all right. What you said makes sense." Just as he finished speaking, Bai Zijuan spoke again, Patriarch, you've returned today. Are you all right? Have you settled the matter of the patrolling divine king? Bai Zijuan's voice gradually had an interrogative tone, and his voice gradually grew louder. Impudent! Just as Bai Zijuan finished speaking, Bai Tsang suddenly roared and directly suppressed Bai Zijuan to kneel on the ground. Bai Tsang snorted coldly and said, Zijuan, the Hall of Elders will decide between Yexing and Long Chen. You can't overstep your boundaries. Yexing is still the patriarch. Long Chen and the immeasurable emperor looked at each other and saw that something was wrong. Bai Tsang did not seem to be interested in the position of the patriarch. Under the powerful pressure, Bai Zijuan knelt on the ground and could not move an inch. However, his eyes were extremely sharp, and the corners of his mouth were slightly raised. Elder Bai Tsang, Zijuan is right. The matter of the patrolling divine king has nothing to do with our clan. A venerable sovereign from the main branch suddenly shouted outside the Hall of Elders. That's right. Zijuan is right. It's all because of Long Chen. Otherwise, why would our clan negotiate with the patrolling divine king? The scene actually became chaotic for a moment. Bai Yexing's unkempt face was filled with bitterness. He looked at Bai Zijuan, who was prostrating on the ground behind Bai Tsang. Silence. Bai Tsang sat on the main seat and suddenly stood up. A terrifying aura that was as vast as the sea spread out, and the entire space seemed to have stopped in an instant. Regardless of whether it was inside or outside the Hall of Elders, everyone felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave. Only the few God King elders did not move at all. The immeasurable emperor also placed his right hand on the white-boned divine king at the critical moment. Rays of divine light instantly enveloped Long Chen and the others, blocking off the pressure. The immeasurable emperor's action immediately attracted the gazes of the 10 God King elders. At this moment, they seemed to have noticed the abnormality of the white-boned divine king, but after the initial surprise, their eyes burned with a burning desire. Long Chen saw that the scene had quieted down. Everyone's eyes were also attracted by the immeasurable emperor's action. Long Chen suddenly took a step forward and said in a deep voice, No matter what you say, Bai Feng's matter is not my doing, and the person who killed him is definitely not me. We'll talk about your matter later. Bai Tsang gave Long Chen a deep look, then turned to Bai Yexing and asked, Yexing, everyone wants to know what you've paid for this trip. Tell us. Bai Yexing nodded and said casually, I've used half of my origin to support the fire flag for 3 years. I'll take care of some other resources, whatever. The 2 words came out of his mouth casually, but everyone present was extremely shocked when they heard it. The 4 God Kings who had been following him from the beginning could not help but stand up from their seat. One of the 5 God Kings on the right said with a look of disbelief, You've supported the fire flag for 3 years for a newly recruited sovereign? Even Bai Tsang's face darkened as he said, After today, your position as the patriarch will be discussed again in the Hall of Elders. If you disregard everything for personal reasons, you can't be the patriarch anymore. Everyone's expression was even worse than this God King's, but because of Bai Tsang's suppression just now, no one dared to speak again. When Long Chen heard that, he could not help but glance at Bai Yexing. Although he did not know how to support the fire flag of God King patrolling formation that day, using half of his origin to support it for 3 years was no different from using a life-saving secret technique for a sovereign. He was afraid that the damage would be irreparable. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Long Chen could not help but say, Long Chen admires your excellency's temperament, and I will definitely repay your kindness. Everyone is gathered here today because you want to know whether I killed Bai Feng or not. Long Chen has a way to find out the whole story. Chapter 971. In the Elder Hall, Long Chen's words did not reach everyone's ears. It was unknown when Bai Zijuan had stood behind Bai Tsang once again. There was a smile at the corners of his lips. Killing Bai Feng seemed simple, but he knew that Long Chen would not be able to defend himself, just as Long Chen thought. When Bai Zijuan killed Bai Feng, he thought of making an oath with the undying Tao law. Bai Feng was already heavily injured by Long Chen, and Bai Zijuan had only disturbed his divine soul. He was sure that Long Chen would not dare to make an oath. On the other side, although the Sovereign Lord's remnant soul said that he would be able to save Long Chen's life even if he made an oath, Long Chen could tell that the Sovereign Lord's remnant soul would be greatly injured if he did that. Moreover, the Sovereign Lord's remnant soul had always been unwilling to change the undying Tao law. He was even very angry about the number of people who were recruited. When Long Chen saw that the surrounding god kings were not willing to give him a chance, he said, "Everyone, just watch. There will definitely be no problem with this method." I can replay the scene before Bai Feng's death. The surrounding god kings sneered, as they did not believe Long Chen at all. Bai Feng had already been dead for more than half a month, so there was no meaning in saying that. Moreover, they did not believe that there was anyone in the clan who dared to kill Bai Feng. When Long Chen fought with Bai Feng, he was so ruthless. Who else could it be other than him? Bai Yexing took a step forward, and the 4 god kings on his left stood up as well. However, before they could say anything, Bai Zijuan spoke again. Bai Zijuan took the lead to speak again. "Elders, since this person still wishes to quibble, why don't we give him a chance? Bai Feng and I are as close as brothers, and I have always been brooding over his death. If this person cannot prove himself, I hope that I can personally crush his bones and scatter his ashes." Bai Zijuan looked furious, as if he really thought that Long Chen was someone who had a deep grudge against him. Bai Tsang and the other god kings nodded as they looked sorrowful. Bai Tsang said, "Since that's the case, why don't we give him a chance? If he cannot prove himself today, none of us will be able to leave. Call Bai Feng's father over as well. He should be present." As soon as he finished speaking, an old man walked in from outside the Hall of Elders. This person's eyes never left Long Chen. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he wanted to eat Long Chen alive. Everyone shook their heads. Seeing that everyone had agreed, Bai Yexing did not say anything more. The 4 god kings who supported him also sat down again. Long Chen took a deep look at Bai Zijuan. This person was extremely scheming, and everything he did was extremely calculated. He knew that no matter what, Bai Yexing would give him a chance to refute. But instead, he stood out and took the initiative. This action made the surrounding people even more convinced that Bai Feng was killed by him. "Do it. I'd like to see how you'll be able to summon a person whose soul has been dead and whose body has been destroyed for half a month. There are many secret techniques in the world, but I've never seen anyone who can do this. If you want to fool us, the next moment will be your death date." The god kings refused to believe that Long Chen would be able to show everyone how Bai Feng died. Bai Feng had been dead for too long. If he had found the place where his soul was destroyed when he died, he might have been able to see what happened when he was alive. However, after such a long time, it was absolutely impossible. Perhaps only experts above the god king realm could do this. Just as everyone thought, there was no problem. It was just a pity that Long Chen had the remnant soul of a sovereign with him. Long Chen alone could not do this. If another month passed, he would not be able to do it either. However, he was able to do it now. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Long Chen suddenly looked at Bai Zijuan and Bai Qing and said in a deep voice, "If I'm not wrong, the 2 of you were there when Bai Feng died." Bai Qing could not help but glance at Bai Zijuan. However, Bai Zijuan's expression did not change. He nodded and said, "That's right. When the 2 of us reached the Hall Mountain, his soul suddenly collapsed. Back then, you suppressed his soul until it was so weak. You did not dare to do anything in front of everyone, so you left behind such a backup plan." Bai Qing berated loudly. Bai Zijuan nodded and continued, You might have planned on using the God King behind you as a cover to escape from our clan back then. It's a pity that you were delayed by something. Or you might have the confidence to deceive us with your art of deception. Everyone's eyes could not help but narrow. Zhang Dizuan had not said anything, but he was stunned when he heard Bai Zijuan's words. Not only did this explain why Long Chen did not escape, but it also made everyone question whether Long Chen's actions were fake. A short sentence was enough to kill people's hearts. Long Chen was already filled with killing intent when he faced Bai Zijuan. Although Bai Zijuan only had the cultivation of a late-stage sovereign venerable, Bai Zijuan was moved by his schemes. We'll know whether it's true or not when the time comes. Long Chen took a deep breath and said, Now, please give me a drop of soul blood. Soul blood? As soon as Long Chen's voice fell, Bai Tsang and the other 5 God Kings immediately snorted and shook their heads. Soul blood? Do you really think we're idiots? If you use their soul blood as a secret technique and threaten them with their lives, what should we do? Is this your scheme? Ridiculous. Long Chen seemed to have expected such a reaction from the crowd. He looked at Bai Yeshing. Their eyes met. Bai Yeshing also saw through Long Chen's intention. Bai Yeshing rubbed his messy hair and sighed. He stepped forward and said, I'm willing to guarantee with my position as the Patriarch and my cultivation that he won't use a secret technique to suppress their souls. The crowd burst into an uproar. Are you crazy? No wonder he didn't leave after killing Bai Feng. He knew you would help him. Absolutely not. As the Patriarch of my clan, how can you do such a thing for an outsider? This Long Chen is so cunning. Once he obtains the soul blood, he will definitely betray us. Although Long Chen felt guilty, he knew it was all because of Bai Yeshing that he could enter the Elder Hall today. So, he had to prove that he was not the one who killed Bai Feng. Otherwise, it would be a great disaster for both Bai Yeshing and himself. Bai Yeshing gave Long Chen a deep look, and at last, he said, Since everyone wants to know the truth, let's do it. Give him the soul blood. I'll guarantee it for him. There's no need to say anything else. After all, I'm still the Patriarch of a clan. Bai Yeshing's words made everyone feel his determination. The 4 God Kings were still behind him. Chapter 972. Bai Tsang gave the order. Bai Qing still had some hesitation, but Bai Zijuan casually took out a drop of soul blood. The soul blood floated in the air, and it contained Bai Zijuan's origin aura. Once an item of soul blood fell into the hands of others, it would be very easy for one's life to be in danger if they used a secret technique to enhance it. This action attracted the attention of everyone in the surroundings, and they felt that he was really magnanimous. On the other side, seeing him like this, Bai Qing clenched his teeth and took out a drop of soul blood from his glabella. Long Chen walked forward, and blood traces appeared on his left and right hands, revealing a kind of vicissitude soul power. The blood traces seemed to be intertwined with divine radiance, and before they completely condensed, everyone couldn't help but look at his palms. Everyone present could tell that this was an unfathomable Tao pattern. Every God King had divine radiance around them, and if Long Chen felt that something was wrong, they would make a move to suppress him. Suppress. As the blood traces on Long Chen's hands condensed, he took the lead to walk up to Bai Qing and put away his soul blood. The dazzling soul blood floated on his right palm, and it faintly showed signs of transforming. Under everyone's gaze, Long Chen turned and walked toward Bai Zijuan, who was behind Bai Tsang. However, when he stood in front of Bai Zijuan, he revealed a cold smile. The blood radiance on his left hand suddenly changed, and he grabbed toward Bai Zijuan. Bai Zijuan's expression changed drastically. He felt that Long Chen's left hand possessed some kind of demonic power that caused his divine soul to stop, and he couldn't resist at all. Swish, swish, swish. The surrounding God Kings all took action, and Bai Tsang immediately turned to attack Long Chen. The skeletal creature behind the immeasurable emperor seemed to be prepared as it immediately appeared behind Long Chen and blocked Baizong's attack. Although the skeletal creature was a god king, it wasn't Baizong's match. After the divine radiance passed, the skeletal creature's clothes turned into powder, revealing its skeletal body. There were even terrifying cracks on it. Everyone, stop! I only took a drop of soul blood. Bai Zijuan didn't take out his soul blood at all. Long Chen immediately distanced himself from Bai Tsang and Bai Zijuan. Bai Yexing and 4 god kings leaped out and stood in front of Long Chen. Bai Yexing's face turned livid as well. He never thought that Long Chen would attack Bai Zijuan at this moment. If there was even the slightest mistake, Long Chen would die without a burial place. Bai Zijuan's complexion turned somewhat pale. As he looked at the soul blood in front of him, unease appeared in his eyes. Just as Long Chen had said, the thing he took out was not his own soul blood. To be precise, this drop of blood had nothing to do with him. Even if it fell into Long Chen's hands, it had nothing to do with him. Baizong took a deep look at the white-boned divine king, and the aura around him emitted terrifying waves. He grabbed out with his right hand, causing the drop of blood in front of Bai Zijuan to fall. As the blood entered his hand, he frowned and said, "You're right. This drop of blood can no longer be considered soul blood." After saying that, he couldn't help but take a few more glances at Long Chen. The soul blood was so close to him that he couldn't sense the changes within it, but Long Chen could see the difference with a single glance. Also the attack just now. With that grab, Bai Zijuan's soul blood was directly pulled out from between his eyebrows. Even he couldn't stop it in time. The soul energy in the blood even exceeded his senses. Long Chen nodded and sneered at Bai Zijuan. "It's fine. Maybe he's just afraid that I'll threaten him with the soul blood? Don't you think so?" When Bai Zijuan heard Long Chen's words, the uneasiness in his heart grew even stronger. Although he didn't believe that Long Chen could recreate the scene from that day, he wasn't willing to hand the soul blood to Long Chen. However, since things had already come to this, he could only nod and agree. He said, "I don't feel at ease handing the soul blood to you." Although the surrounding people were doubtful, they could understand what Bai Zijuan meant. Thus, they didn't say anything. The few divine kings didn't say much either. They directly shouted at Long Chen, "The soul blood is already in your hands. Let us see what you're talking about." Long Chen nodded. The soul blood and the blood marks on his hands actually started to intertwine. The blood marks weren't ordinary Dao patterns. Instead, they were personally drawn by the Emperor's remnant soul over the past few days. Compared to making Long Chen swear on the undying Dao law, the effects on the Emperor's remnant soul were negligible even though it took over 10 days. On the other hand, the immeasurable Emperor only moved his hand casually, and the divine King Baigu returned to his side once again. He stood behind Long Chen. This action seemed to have attracted the attention of the various divine kings. Of course, at this very moment, almost everyone's attention was on Long Chen's hands. Even the God King level experts present were unable to discern the cause of those bloody scars. The 2 drops of soul blood started to change at a visible speed. It was as if they were going to condense into 2 true souls. Now that things had come to this, Bai Zijuan's expression was no longer as calm as before. His brows were still furrowed as he stared at Long Chen with his hands behind his back. The blood marks on Long Chen's hands became fainter and fainter, but the 2 drops of soul blood started to change more and more. Buzz. There was a loud boom. Regardless of whether it was the divine kings or the many thearchs outside the Elder Hall, they all felt their souls tremble. The 10 divine kings stared at Long Chen's hands. When the blood marks disappeared completely, countless Taoist rhymes appeared out of nowhere and spread out like a tsunami. There was a loud boom, and the Taoist rhymes were like a waterfall. No one would have thought that such a scene would be caused by an arch. Bai Zijuan couldn't help but take a few steps back, and his face turned pale. Under such a scene, even an idiot like him could sense that something was wrong. Long Chen shook his hands, and the 2 drops of soul blood landed in front of everyone. The soul blood that didn't have any vitality turned into the appearance of Bai Zijuan and Bai Qing. With the 2 of them in the center, the Taoist patterns in the surroundings intertwined, and the Taoist rhymes rose and fell. It was as if they were painting in the waves, and it was strange and unfathomable. Long Chen stood where he was and didn't make any other movements. He only said indifferently, "These 2 drops of soul blood have already fused into the Taoist inscriptions. There's no secret art involved. I, the Divine King, can go up and observe it with my soul. Then, you'll know that I'm telling the truth." After saying that, Long Chen glanced at Bai Zijuan. He was a little afraid that Bai Zijuan would lie on the ground and mutilate himself, saying that he had already performed a secret art. In fact, Bai Zijuan had the same thought. Bai Tsang frowned, as if he also felt that something was wrong. He slowly walked to the place where the soul blood had appeared and said in a deep voice, "Fourth Elder, you and I will observe it with our souls at the same time to verify it." The 4th Elder was the Divine King behind Bai Yeshing. After responding, he walked up. As the 2 of them observed the soul blood, Bai Feng's figure appeared among the illusory figures of the Taoist laws. Chapter 973. Under everyone's watchful eyes, no one had expected that Long Chen would actually create such a realistic yet illusory scene. When they saw the illusory figure condensing in the air, many people subconsciously thought that it was something that Long Chen had created. However, they quickly realized that something wasn't right. This seems to be a replay of the scene from that day. I clearly remember that there was a strand of wandering divine power that flew past my left side. Back then, I also saw the duel between the 2 of them clearly. This scene seems to be reproduced. Do you still remember Bai Feng's words and expression back then? There doesn't seem to be any difference. He actually did it. He made use of Tao patterns and Tao presence to draw out the Tao laws of heaven and earth, reproducing the scene from the past. Time seemed to have returned to the duel between Long Chen and Bai Feng. When Long Chen's halberd instantly shattered Bai Feng's physical body, the few who had died couldn't help but raise their brows slightly. They had long heard of Long Chen's potential in the clan, but they were even more astonished now that they had witnessed it. Skipping levels to fight, and it was so effortless. Everyone saw that Bai Feng and the other 2 were forced to retreat by Long Chen in the illusory figure before they walked into the distance. Along the way, the scene was centered around the 2 of them. At the same time, more and more people proved that this illusory figure wasn't fake. When Bai Zijuan and the other 2 left, they had met 1 or 2 people along the way. Long Chen didn't know about these things at all. Bai Zijuan's face was as pale as paper, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. Bai Qing, who wasn't far away from him, couldn't help but start to tremble. They knew that if they were to continue walking, it would be the scene where Bai Zijuan personally killed Bai Feng. If that scene was to be seen by the people present, the outcome would be imaginable. Bang! Under everyone's gazes, no one expected Bai Zijuan to suddenly make a move. He directly blasted his divine power at the scene that was being deduced. Everyone's gaze fell on him. Even an idiot would be able to tell that something was amiss. When Bai Zijuan saw that everyone's gazes had landed on him, his face turned extremely gloomy. He could only say in a deep voice, "This scene is completely different from what we saw that day. Don't you think so, Bai Qing? If we allow this scene to continue, he will definitely slander us." Long Chen waved his right hand, and the 2 streams of soul blood once again returned to his hands. He stared at Bai Zijuan and said, "From the very beginning, I've never said that the 2 of you were the ones who killed Bai Feng. How do you explain this? So what if you destroy this image? I can still evolve it 2 more times before the Tao pattern completely disappears." The surrounding people all fell silent, and then the sound of insects chirping became louder and louder. The scene that Long Chen projected was personally investigated by two divine kings, and there was indeed nothing strange about it. However, Bai Zijuan had destroyed the scene, so there was something fishy about it. Bai Tsang's face gradually turned as cold as steel. Before he could say anything, he heard Bai Feng's father shouting with a trembling voice, "Set up the Dao pattern. Regardless of whether it's real or fake, I have to finish watching this scene." The blood mark appeared on Long Chen's hand once again. Even though it had already faded slightly, the power of laws was still activated. The scene appeared once again. When everyone saw how Bai Zijuan had destroyed Bai Feng's divine soul with a single strike, the entire Elder Hall was in an uproar. Is this real? Bai Zijuan killed Bai Feng? How is this possible? Bai Zijuan must be crazy. Bai Feng has known him for so many years. How could he bear to do such a thing? Bai Qing has been here from the very beginning. Everything will be clear once we ask him. I don't believe that Zijuan would do such a thing. Many people shouted out, but there were still many people who were unwilling to believe that Bai Zijuan was the one who did it. Bai Tsang's body, which was seated on the main seat, was already trembling slightly. He turned around and looked at Bai Zijuan. With a wave of his right hand, he suppressed Bai Zijuan with his divine power. Bai Tsang's voice was as cold as ice as he said, "Is the content of this scene real or fake?" The divine light in Bai Zijuan's eyes dimmed, but he kept his mouth shut and didn't say a word. At this moment, the truth was revealed. Bai Feng's father even spat out a mouthful of blood in the Elder Hall. The various God Kings were speechless as they didn't know what to do. In reality, he could quibble about this scene, but since everyone knew that Bai Qing had personally witnessed him killing Bai Feng, there was no turning back for this matter. Plop! Bai Feng's father unleashed his divine power, but he was speechless. The pressure of a perfection stage venerable fell on Bai Qing like a tidal wave. His eyes were bloodshot as he asked coldly, "Is the scene real? Did you personally witness Bai Zijuan killing my son?" Bai Qing knelt on the ground under the powerful pressure as his body trembled non-stop. In the end, he said in a muffled voice, "Indeed, it's true. All of this has nothing to do with me. I didn't react at all." After he said that, whether it was Bai Tsang or the surrounding God Kings and Elders, they couldn't help but gasp. A great commotion broke out outside the hall. Bai Zijuan suddenly revealed a helpless and bitter smile as he said, "Let me down. I was indeed the one who did this." Bai Yesheng let out a long sigh as he muttered to himself, "Why did you do this?" Bai Tsang roared, "Unfilial son, how dare you kill a disciple who's like your own brother?" Bai Qing's father, who was at the side, directly transformed his divine power into a long saber and slashed at Bai Zijuan. He was filled with killing intent. Bai Tsang moved and blocked in front of Bai Zijuan. The long saber plunged straight into his body, causing blood to spurt out from his body. He actually dispersed all of his divine power and origin energy, allowing the saber to slash through half of his body. The 5 God Kings on Bai Tsang's right stood up abruptly and sent Bai Qing's father flying 1,000 feet away. All of them released their pressure, and their divine power was as vast as the sea. "Stop!" Before the 5 of them could make a move, Bai Tsang yelled at them. Bai Tsang seemed to have aged in an instant. Ignoring the injuries on his body, he actually knelt on one knee before Bai Qing's father and said in a deep voice, "He's my son. I'm willing to exchange my life for his." Whether it was Bai Yesheng, the people from the Hall of Elders, or Long Chen, they couldn't help but shake their heads and sigh when they saw this scene. As a God King expert, Bai Tsang was actually willing to exchange his life for Bai Zijuan's. Bai Yesheng also walked up and bowed to Bai Qing and Long Chen, saying, "I've implicated the 2 of you in this matter, but today I, Bai Yesheng, sincerely request that you spare his life." At this moment, Bai Zijuan also knelt behind Bai Tsang. His expression was extremely complicated. Looking at the imposing figure of the man before him, he seemed to have relaxed all of a sudden. He seemed to be crying and laughing at the same time as he said, "Father, I finally understand why you don't want to be the patriarch. I can only blame myself for thinking that I was smart. I can only blame myself for believing the words of the Red Moon." The words of the Red Moon. Long Chen's eyes suddenly narrowed. The expressions of Bai Tsang and the other god kings also changed drastically. Chapter 974. At the Red Moon, Bai Zijuan knelt behind Bai Tsang with a self-mocking expression. He suddenly raised his hands and smashed them toward his head and dantian. Rumble. A vast divine power swept out from his body like a tidal wave. His entire body was covered in blood, and he looked like a man made of blood. Long Chen stared at Bai Zijuan with a frown. This person had actually crippled his own cultivation. Now, other than his lifespan, his body was even weaker than an ordinary person. His actions had temporarily stabilized the emotions of the people around him. Even Bai Qing's father's anger had subsided a little. He only shouted angrily, "What do you mean by the Red Moon? Are you still trying to shirk your responsibility?" Bai Zijuan was almost paralyzed on the ground. However, he replied in a self-mocking manner, "I was the one who killed Bai Feng, and I did plan to let my father become the family head through this palace examination. However, all of this is because of the Red Moon's promise. Do you still remember the blood sacrifice of the Red Moon? The blood sacrifice of the Red Moon." The moment these 4 words were spoken, the 10 god kings in the Elder Hall had a drastic change in expression. Even Bai Tsang's expression changed as he cried out, "Impossible! The Red Moon is already unable to restart the Red Moon well. How can they start the blood sacrifice of the Red Moon?" That's right. The Red Moon well's roots were already destroyed by our race 3,000 years ago. It has already dried up. How can they restart the blood sacrifice of the Red Moon? Long Chen and the other 2 were like outsiders at this moment. They didn't have the chance to interrupt, but they were listening very carefully. This blood sacrifice of the Red Moon seemed to be an extremely incredible matter. Long Chen even faintly felt that this so-called blood sacrifice of the Red Moon was inseparable from the White Bone God King and the Ethereal King. Bai Zijuan spoke again. 3 months ago, I met the Red Moon's God King expert. She swore with the inextinguishable Tao Law that the Red Moon would start the blood sacrifice of the Red Moon 1 year later. She told me that only when my father becomes the family head, the lives of most people can be saved. Many venerable sovereigns subconsciously shouted and questioned why Bai Zijuan would believe someone from the Red Moon divine clan. Only the 10 god kings and Bai Yexing remained silent. Bai Tsang pondered for a moment before asking Bai Zijuan, "Is that person your mother?" Bai Zijuan nodded. When Long Chen heard this, he finally understood. This was the reason why Bai Tsang was unable to become the family head despite having the support of many god king experts. This also explained why Bai Zijuan believed her words without a doubt and was even willing to sacrifice Bai Feng to help his father ascend to the family head position. Bai Zijuan shook his head and smiled bitterly in self-mockery. Now, it looks like the Scarlet Moon blood sacrifice is real. However, what he wanted might be the scene today, to make my father an enemy of the clan. If that's the case, perhaps only the 2 of us will survive after the blood sacrifice of the Crimson Moon. When Bai Zijuan saw that his father would rather die than become enemies with the clan, he saw everything clearly. Whether or not there was Long Chen today, once he began to scheme for the position of the clan head, he was destined to divide the people of Bai Yixin. Bai Tsang let out a long sigh and didn't know how to reply to Bai Zijuan's words. When Bai Qing's father saw Bai Zijuan in such a sorry state and heard about the blood sacrifice of the Crimson Moon, he couldn't help but laugh wildly and shouted, "I won't take your life today, but how long can you live? When the blood sacrifice of the Crimson Moon restarts, everyone in my clan will have to die." After saying that, he rushed out of the elder hall as if he had gone mad. Bai Yeshing couldn't help but murmur, no wonder the patrolling God King had the intention to support the Red Moon. After the Red Moon's God King experts surpassed our clan, they didn't even dare to start a large-scale battle. It seems like all of this is because of the blood sacrifice of the Crimson Moon. Long Chun finally couldn't help but walk up and ask in a deep voice, "May I ask, what is the blood sacrifice of the Crimson Moon?" Although the people of Bai Yishen were weaker than the Red Moon, they were still far from being unable to contend with the Red Moon. What was this so-called blood sacrifice of the Crimson Moon that could put the people of Bai Yishen in danger of annihilation? Bai Yeshing replied, "The blood sacrifice of the Crimson Moon starts from the Crimson Moon Well, and also from the relationship between our clan and the Red Moon thousands of years ago. This matter is very complicated. To put it simply, the Crimson Moon Well allows the Red Moon clan to possess unparalleled fighting strength for a fixed period of time. The higher the cultivation base of a person, the more terrifying the improvement will be. In fact, there are 2 Crimson Moon Wells in our clan." After that, Bai Yeshing handed a jade slip to Long Chen. All the God Kings glanced at it, but none of them objected to it. All the God Kings looked solemn. Even Bai Tsang took a deep breath and said, "I'm willing to take responsibility for my son, even if I have to pay with my life. But now we should find a way to solve the problem of the Crimson Moon Well. We must not let the Red Moon activate the blood sacrifice of the Crimson Moon." Long Chen and the other 2 looked at each other before they turned around and left the Elder Hall slowly. Before they even took a few steps out, they saw Bai Zijuan walking out as well. He called out to Long Chen from afar. Zhang Dizuan snorted coldly, obviously unhappy with Bai Zijuan. However, Long Chen smiled and walked towards Bai Zijuan. When Bai Zijuan saw Long Chen walking over, a bitter smile appeared on his weak face. He asked Long Chen, "My biggest mistake is to make a fuss about you all this time. Now I almost lost my life." He thought that he had already handled Bai Feng's matter perfectly, but now, he had ended up in such a state. Long Chen glanced at Bai Zijuan and said, "I hope that what you said today isn't just to save your life. Otherwise, the people of Bai Yishen will really be consigned to eternal damnation." Bai Zijuan shook his head and said, "I'm already a cripple and naturally wouldn't lie. I called out to you not to seek your trust but to tell you something. That Ethereal King and God King Bone Kill already know that you guys are among the people of Bai Yishen. Moreover, they also intend to take back their things." As Bai Zijuan spoke, he threw a glance at the black-robed skeletal creature behind the immeasurable emperor. Long Chen nodded. The God King Bone Kill and the Ethereal King knew that it was useless for the skeletal creature to be by their side. After all, the imprint that the God King Bone Kill had left behind had been completely erased by the immortal emperor's remnant soul. Long Chen saw that Bai Zijuan didn't seem to be lying and turned to leave. However, Bai Zijuan spoke out once again, "Right now, you're tied together with our race. I hope that you can help our race." Long Chen didn't reject this and only nodded in agreement. Chapter 975. The people of Bai Yishen finally calmed down after the meeting in the Hall of Elders. Bai Feng's death and Bai Zijuan's framing of Long Chen had caused Long Chen's status in the people of Bai Yishen to soar. Almost everyone knew his name. Bai Yeshing's position as the patriarch became more and more stable, and Bai Tsang and the other 5 God Kings no longer targeted him. The next day, Long Chen and the other 2 were still in the room when they heard the excited voices of the immeasurable Emperor and Zhang Dizuan. The 2 of them were accompanied by 2 God King-level elders. They were both Bai Tsang's subordinates. When Long Chen saw the 2 God Kings, he bowed and asked, "What's the matter?" The immeasurable Emperor and Zhang Dizuan signaled to Long Chen with their eyes and said, "Hurry up and thank the 2 God Kings. They are here to deliver something to us." Long Chen could not help but smile when he saw the immeasurable emperor's reaction. Since the immeasurable emperor was so excited, the item that the people of Bai Yi Shun presented this time must be of great quality. The two god kings nodded with smiles on their faces. The leader said, "We've troubled you with Bai Feng's matter. Today, we're here on the orders of Bai Tsang and the Patriarch to apologize. We wouldn't dare. Seniors, please feel free to speak your mind." Long Chen was also curious about the item that the two god kings would deliver personally. The leader waved his hand and a red glass bead appeared. He said, "This is the item that our clan has decided to give to you after some discussion." Before Long Chen took the item, he could already sense the pure and majestic divine energy in it. When he held the item in his hand, he felt as if the bead had come alive and wanted to rush into his body. This item is called the Daynite Blood Bead. Our clan can only produce one every 30 years, and the quality varies, the leader explained. It took 30 years to eradicate one. Long Chen nodded slightly when he heard this. From what he could see, the quality of the pill in his hand was definitely not low. Long Chen wasn't in a hurry to put the item away. Instead, he asked in a deep voice, "Using this item as an apology is a bit too much. If the two of you still have other matters to discuss, please don't hesitate to speak." The two god kings nodded slightly, thinking that Long Chen was a smart man, so they did not beat around the bush and directly said, "My clan plans to send 2 god kings and nearly 100 emperors to infiltrate the Red Moon Well and destroy it again. Your battle prowess is already one of the best among the emperors, and you seem to have a deep understanding of Dao pattern arrays, so I want you to lead one of the teams." Long Chen pondered for a moment, but did not answer immediately. The two god kings did not seem to be in a hurry. They said sternly, "Just fuse with the Daynite blood bead first. It doesn't matter whether you succeed or not. Just leave the time for you to consider." After that, the two god kings walked out of the door. After the two god kings left, the immeasurable emperor and 9 treasures divine king could not help but stare at the blood bead in Long Chen's hand. The two of them naturally sensed the extraordinariness of this item. The immeasurable emperor said directly, "I think this item is a bit demonic. Why don't you give it to this poor monk for safekeeping?" Zhang Dizuan could not help but roll his eyes at the immeasurable emperor. He said in a deep voice, "No wonder so many people are willing to participate in the court examination. This bead is probably a great opportunity for many people." Long Chen looked at the immeasurable emperor, who was almost drooling, and put away the Daynite blood bead. He smiled and said, "The two of you should also prepare. We will go together on this trip." Zhang Dizuan and the immeasurable emperor were stunned. Zhang Dizuan immediately said, "The two of them just left, and you already decided? Going deep into the Red Moon is no small matter. The Daynite blood bead is already in my hand. Why should I take the risk? According to this poor monk, the best strategy is to run away." Long Chen shook his head. Bai Yesheng looked sloppy, but he had paid a heavy price to stop the patrolling god kings for him. Not to mention that the ethereal king and god king Bonecrusher were involved in this matter. He could not break his promise and run away at this time. Seeing that Long Chen had made up his mind, the two of them had to leave. The immeasurable monarch was a bit reluctant, but the 9 treasures monarch looked a bit more excited. He didn't look scared at all. Perhaps the saying "the newborn calf is not afraid of the tiger" was apt to describe him. Although he had the cultivation base of a venerable sovereign, he had been spoiled by 9 treasures divine king. The immeasurable emperor's cultivation base had also improved rapidly during this period, but he still had not stepped into the venerable sovereign realm. However, he could control the skeletons, so he had the ability to protect himself. After the two of them left, Long Chen began to fuse with the Daynite blood bead. As soon as his divine power rushed into the Daynite blood bead, the pure divine power of origin in it surged toward Long Chen's limbs and bones like a flood breaking through a dam. What a powerful divine power of origin! Although it's a little cold, it's extremely pure. Long Chen could not help but say to himself. At the same time, he frantically operated the primal chaos golden codec. As the tyrannical divine power of origin flowed through his body, he could even hear the rumbling of thunder in his body. This thing is a little strange. Although you can't take too much of it, you should be able to break through to the 7th stage Venerable Sovereign Realm after refining it. The Emperor's remnant soul reminded Long Chen. Long Chen nodded. Now he knew why the 2 God Kings wanted him to try refining it first before making a decision. This thing could allow him to directly step into the 7th stage Venerable Sovereign Realm from the 6th stage Venerable Sovereign Realm. It seemed like a simple realm, but if it was the divine power of origin from the remnant body of a Venerable Sovereign, even with the primal chaos golden codex, it would take Long Chen several years or even longer to break through. The 2 God Kings also knew that Long Chen's battle prowess was extraordinarily high. Once he reached the 7th stage Venerable Sovereign Realm, he would have more power to rely on. Under the violent power, Long Chen's cultivation level rapidly increased. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed before he finally walked out of his room. The immeasurable Emperor and the 9 Treasures Divine King were already waiting at the door. The immeasurable Emperor said, "The Hall of Elders already knows of your decision. Since you've come out of seclusion today, we'll set off at noon tonight." Long Chen nodded, then turned to the Zhizong Dizuan and instructed, "Don't be rash on this trip. Try your best to follow the 2 of us." The Zhizong Dizuan frowned slightly and nodded casually. Although Long Chen knew that his words would be rejected by the Zhizong Dizuan, he had to say it. After some discussion, the 3 of them went straight to the Hall of Elders to wait for midnight. The immeasurable Emperor had told Long Chen a lot about the Blood Moon Well and the Crimson Moon Blood sacrifice during this period of time. He told many of the secrets involved. The immeasurable Emperor said, "The people of Bai Yi Shen aren't doing this without confidence. Someone in their clan has done this thousands of years ago. It's also because of this that the Blood Moon Well has remained silent until now." Chapter 976. Midnight had arrived. 2 God Kings and 100 sovereigns had gathered in the Hall of Elders. Bai Yexia walked at the front, waved his hand, and summoned a group of people to follow Long Chen. Long Chen could not help but raise his eyebrows when he saw the 2 God Kings and the 100 sovereigns all covered in black. It was not because of their attire, but because he could not sense the presence of the 2 God Kings and the 100 sovereigns. Unless he used his soul fragment, he could not detect them at all. However, Long Chen did not notice that they were using any concealment technique. It was very strange. Bai Yexia seemed to see through Long Chen's doubts. He smiled and said, "They all have the night moon pearls in their bodies, which have been passed down by the people of Bai Yi Shen. They are the key to sneaking into the Red Moon." As his voice trailed off, 4 milky white pearls were handed over to Long Chen and the others. Although Long Chen had received the pearls and found them very strange, they were of little value to him. The existence of the Sovereign Lord's soul fragment was enough to give him the best concealment effect. "There's no time to lose. Let's go." Bai Yexia's bearded face looked a little more serious. After the crowd left, Bai Cong came out of the hall and asked in a low voice, "Yexia, I'm afraid that team will not come back alive. Why did you let Long Chen go? This man has infinite potential. If he stays in the clan, he will be a great help if the Blood Moon Well is destroyed again." Bai Yexia shook his head and said, "This man is not an ordinary man. You should have noticed the bloodstain he left when Bai Feng was killed that day. I also hope he can survive, but his participation in this will certainly increase the chances of success. This is his choice, so even if he dies, he can only blame fate." Bai Cong nodded. He was beginning to understand why the position of the patriarch fell to Bai Yexia. He had stopped the patrolling God Kings for Long Chen and did not hesitate to consume his source. Now, in order to protect the clan, he could also make the best judgment. He did not do anything dishonorable, and he was very upright. On the other side, Long Chen's group of 3 moved side by side with the other 2 divine kings. Their method of movement was extremely strange, actually crossing through the sky in a cycle of reincarnation. The 100 or so people and the 2 God Kings seemed to have merged into a profound matrix formation. Everyone seemed to be hidden in the full moon without moving a single step. Although Long Chen and the other 2 hadn't learned this technique, once they let go of their bodies and minds, they were immediately driven. At this moment, the team of more than 100 people was like a wheel rolling over the full moon, constantly moving forward. Although they were all dressed in black, their figures and auras had completely disappeared. At this moment, even if someone were to walk past them, they would not be able to detect it. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. Seeing that they were already deep into the uninhabited mountain range, although everyone continued to move forward, they relaxed a little. The 2 God King experts also sent a voice transmission to Long Chen. You fused with an extremely high-quality white knight blood bead in 15 days. Truly inconceivable. The chief once said that we don't have to hide anything from you. The chances of us making it out alive from the Red Moon are slim. The 2 conversed with their telepathic thoughts, but Long Chen's expression didn't change when he heard it. He just nodded. Although he knew that this trip was dangerous, he felt that it wasn't to the point of certain death. The Emperor Lord's remnant soul was his greatest reliance. Infiltrating the Red Moon, concealing oneself was the most important thing. After all, going deep into the Red Moon and fighting, it was likely that none of them would be able to make it out alive. The 2 of them admired Long Chen's calmness a little more. They continued to communicate with their telepathic thoughts. These 100 people and the 2 of us are the ones who broke the well. Although the Blood Moon well has been destroyed for thousands of years, our clan has always followed the teachings of our ancestors and never slacked off. Just as the 2 of them finished speaking, Long Chen's expression suddenly changed. He frowned and slowed down his footsteps. The 10-man team behind him also sensed the change in him at the first moment, and they immediately sent out a message. Whether it was the 2 God Kings or the others, they all became serious, but there was also some doubt between their brows. They had to be extremely cautious on this trip. They had to pay attention to any sign of trouble. However, they were now 3 days away from the Red Moon, and they were going to a place where there were few people, so there shouldn't be any ambushes. One of the God Kings even asked Long Chen through telepathic thoughts, "Did you find anything wrong? We both have detection artifacts on us, but we didn't find anything." Long Chen frowned and didn't reply, but his footsteps slowed down again. After a few breaths, he suddenly stopped and transmitted his telepathic thoughts. "Turn back, go around." After he finished speaking, he didn't hesitate at all and led the immeasurable Emperor and the others directly to the left. The others didn't even have time to question him before they had to change their formation and follow closely behind. Although the 2 God King experts were completely covered in black clothes, everyone could sense their fury. Long Chen's sudden change in direction meant that they had a higher chance of being discovered. "You better give us an explanation," one of the God Kings directly asked Long Chen through telepathic thought. Crackle. As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely small arc of lightning flashed in the mountains under their feet. The arc of lightning appeared 10,000 miles in front of where they had just been. The arc of lightning was extremely small, and only the 2 God Kings with detection artifacts could see it clearly. It was a low-level source beast the length of an arm before it died. The 2 of them looked at Long Chen deeply, and their eyes became more cautious. Long Chen shook his head slightly. Originally, leaving directly was the best thing to do. However, in order to not misunderstand the 2 God Kings, he could only use the Emperor's remnant soul to make a source beast crash into the formation. If the group hadn't left, they would have found that the direction they were originally going to change every 2 hours, and there would be a powerful formation inscription sweeping past. On the other side, although they had been delayed for a few days by this detour, they had arrived outside the Red Moon safely. As expected, the Red Moon's clan protection formation had been fully activated, and there were people patrolling the area from time to time. This time, Long Chen didn't interfere. All the venerable sovereigns behind the 2 god kings began to move. A strange white light shone from each of their eyes, and at a speed that made one's hair stand on end, they opened a half-meter hole in the formation. The group entered in a single file, and almost all of them disappeared in the blink of an eye. The second stage began. As soon as the group entered the Red Moon, the aura around them suddenly changed, and they quickly flew into the distance. Long Chen and the others naturally followed closely behind. They soon arrived at the Blood Moon well that the group had mentioned before. When the immeasurable emperor saw this, he couldn't help but murmur in a low voice, "If I can learn such a concealment technique, then this trip won't be in vain. In the future, it will be twice as easy to kill demons with half the effort." Chapter 977. The 2 divine kings and 100 sovereigns of the people of Bai Yi Shin used a special concealment technique to find the Blood Moon well without much effort. Long Chen could not help but be amazed by the observation of the Emperor Lord's remnant soul. The 2 divine kings and the 100 sovereigns used their concealment techniques and Tao pattern arrays to the extreme, as if they had become one with the Red Moon. They did not even notice anyone passing by 100 meters away. The Blood Moon well was located at the foot of a mountain in the northwest of the Red Moon, and there were many people patrolling there. In a short 14 hours, Long Chen and the others entered the mountain under the lead of the 2 divine kings. Phew! After entering the mountain, the 2 divine kings heaved a sigh of relief. One of them explained directly, "This concealment technique has been passed down in our clan for thousands of years, and only this technique can allow us to approach the Blood Moon well without being detected by the Red Moon. Without this technique, it would be impossible for our clan to enter the Red Moon unless we went all out." Long Chen heard this and nodded slightly. "If I'm not wrong, your clan and the Red Moon are of the same origin." The 2 divine kings nodded slightly. There was no need to hide anything at this point. After a simple discussion, they continued to go deeper. They were at the foot of the mountain, and the blue gems on the walls gave off a faint glow. The terrain of the space, spanning dozens of miles, was very complicated. Under the lead of the 2 divine kings, they managed to avoid most of the patrolling people along the way. Long Chen and the others finally understood why the people of Bai Yi Shin had passed down this concealment technique. This technique was tailor-made for sneaking into the Blood Moon well. "That's not right. Why are there 7 more statues here?" The 2 god kings had already found the location of the first Blood Moon well, but their faces suddenly changed. Long Chen and the others followed the 2 divine kings' gaze and saw a ring of blood energy floating in the dark underground space. The blood energy was flowing, and there was a magnificent statue behind it. The statue was over 100 feet tall, and it was as if it had become one with the surrounding space. If not for the fact that one was looking at it with the naked eye, it would have been impossible to discover it with one's divine sense. Long Chen furrowed his brows and asked in a deep voice, "The Blood Moon well is so spacious. Although there are people patrolling, they are very relaxed. I'm afraid it has something to do with this statue." The 2 god kings said after a moment of thought, "The Red Moon is unable to stop us from coming here through their technique. Otherwise, we wouldn't have destroyed the Blood Moon well even once. But what is this statue? We must get to the bottom of this." Everyone's hearts became a little more solemn. They knew that once they destroyed the first Blood Moon well, they would be completely exposed. Compared to their peaceful journey, what awaited them would be a storm. This was also the reason why they were willing to die. What they needed to do was to destroy the source of the blood moon well at all costs. Buzz buzz buzz. While everyone was guessing, 7 pillars of blood shot into the sky. Majestic energy surged out from the 7 blood moon wells that were not too far away. As the blood pillar soared into the sky, the 7 statues seemed to have come alive. Every statue was covered in blood runes. They were all Tao runes. How is this possible? How can the blood moon well have such a terrifying source aura? The blood moon well has really been reactivated, but this aura is several times stronger than what our clan has recorded. No one has been able to make the blood moon well erupt for thousands of years. Why is there such a change now? Whether it was the 2 god kings or nearly 100 emperors, they were all very familiar with the blood moon well. Their eyes were fixed on the 7 statues, as if they were stunned by the violent aura of the blood moon well. At the same time, Long Chen was also very serious. He finally knew why the blood moon well could be reactivated. There was a divine emperor's body here. The divine emperor's body was sealed in each of the 7 blood moon wells. When the blood pillar erupted, the divine emperor's remnant soul immediately captured the extraordinary source aura within. The divine emperor's body was scattered all over the ancient sacred divine world. There were cultivators of all realms who were lucky enough to obtain it. However, the divine emperor's body was mysterious. Very few people could use it. It was like how the human Tao emperor and the others had coincidentally opened the corpse world. It was also a kind of opportunity. According to the divine emperor's body, those who could truly obtain the source energy from his body would definitely be famous in the ancient sacred divine world. The 7 statues are not the reason for the blood moon well's reactivation. They are there to stop us, the immeasurable emperor said before Long Chen could speak. Everyone's eyes fell on the immeasurable emperor. The immeasurable emperor's Tao ring on his right hand suddenly emitted a light screen that blocked in front of everyone. Everyone looked at the 7 statues through the light screen, and their expressions changed drastically. Tao patterns intertwined and Tao rhythms condensed without dispersing. The 7 statues were actually formed by an extremely complicated and mysterious array formation. At this moment, everyone finally understood why their journey had been so smooth. The Red Moon also knew that it could not stop them, so it had directly left these 7 array statues here. The leading godly king said with a trembling voice, "I remember now. These are the patrolling statues of the patrolling godly king." The patrolling statues were given to him by the Zhuge forbidden god lineage to manage this place. Another godly king could not help but exclaim when he heard that. The Zhuge forbidden god lineage. This time, the immeasurable emperor and Long Chen's expressions changed. They looked at each other. Although they knew that the patrolling godly king was sent here by a certain Tianyuan divine clan, they did not know that the Tianyuan divine clan was from the Zhuge forbidden god lineage. However, at this moment they did not have the time to discuss this. Long Chen said, "At this point, we can only break the patrolling statues and destroy the source energy in the blood moon well." Buzz buzz. As soon as Long Chen finished speaking, the blood-red light pillars emitted a buzzing sound as if they were responding to him. The 7 statues also rose into the air. The divine light on them was like a waterfall sprinkling over the entire blood moon well. Everyone's expression changed abruptly. They were terrified and wanted to fly up. Bang! A few sovereigns had just flown up 1,000 meters when they were crushed by the light screens. The terrifying power emanating from the 7 statues enveloped the entire blood moon well. At the same time, within the Red Moon, many powerhouses were rushing toward the blood moon well. In the end, the people of Bai Yi Shen broke in. However, this time, the blood moon well will not be destroyed. Chapter 978. At the foot of the mountain where the blood moon well was located, the entire interior of the mountain was covered in dazzling light. 7 patrolling statues floated up and down, and there seemed to be countless needles and threads intertwined on them, forming a terrifying formation diagram. Rumble. Loud sounds rang out, and the mountain rocks above the Blood Moon well were completely shattered. Many members of the Blood Moon Divine Clan turned into streaks of light and arrived. They immediately caught sight of the 100-odd members of the people of Bai Yi Shun through the light screen. An old God King leading the group could not help but laugh out loud. This formation activates once every 6 hours, and as long as there are living beings inside, it will completely seal off the area. The patrolling members of my clan know the exact time it activates, but you don't. What awaits you next is the endless slaughter of the killing formation. The old God King laughed without restraint, as if she was very angry that the people of Bai Yi Shun had easily infiltrated the Blood Moon well. A burly God King behind her said directly, "As long as one of you can hand over the spell used to enter our clan, you can live." The Red Moon placed great importance on this spell. The last time the people of Bai Yi Shun used this formation, it destroyed all of the Red Moon's Blood Moon wells. Although those who participated were all captured, none of them spoke. Now that the Blood Moon well was about to activate, these people were like turtles in a jar, and the chances of extracting the spell from them naturally increased. More and more members of the Red Moon's upper echelons arrived. When they saw Long Chun and the others trapped in the killing formation, they could not help but sneer. God King Bones Kill and God King Void Soul quickly arrived as well. Their eyes immediately landed on the skeletal creature behind the immeasurable monarch as if they were attracted by something. The ethereal king's original soul body now had a physical body, and he exuded an extremely terrifying aura. The God King of Bone Slaughter did not change, and he was still a skeleton. The ethereal king was the first to speak. The two people who escaped back then actually brought the God King puppet I left behind with them. The White Bones God King laughed out loud. That day, it was Long Chun and the immeasurable emperor who had allowed him to leave the White Bone Forbidden Zone ahead of time. The two of them were also one of the few people who were not affected by the Rotten Bones technique. They were supposed to be the carriers of the God King's power in the Samsara Spring, tossing and turning like this. Yet, they met here and now. The White Bones Divine King said to the old woman, the white bone creature inside the formation and the monk beside him, "I want them." The two of them did not pay much attention to Long Chun and the immeasurable emperor. In fact, they had no enmity with Long Chun and the others. To be more precise, they did not take Long Chun and the others seriously at all. Inside the Blood Moon well, Long Chun and the immeasurable emperor immediately discovered God King Bone Crusher and Ethereal King. Long Chun's eyes suddenly turned cold. He still remembered clearly how Sovereign Zhan Kuang died in front of him that day. He had promised Sovereign Zhan Kuang and Zhan Lanyue that he would avenge him. Phew! Long Chun let out a long sigh of relief, knowing that it was impossible for him to defeat the two God Kings at this moment. The appearance of the patrolling statues of the patrolling God King had also put all of them at death's door. The two God Kings and the sovereigns behind them were extremely pale, looking at the net of arrays in the sky. Their hearts sank to the bottom. The immeasurable emperor brought the white bone creature to stand in front of Long Chun and Zhizong Dizuan, and said in a deep voice, "The 7 statues array may have sealed this place, but it has not completely merged. In another hour, what awaits us will be a killing array." Zhizong Dizuan was shocked. He did not expect this trip to be so dangerous. The two God Kings beside him smiled bitterly. The patrolling God King, as the helmsman, is also involved in this matter. When the Blood Moon well restart sacrificial ceremony begins, it will be the time when the people of Bai Yi Shun will be annihilated. As they spoke, the two of them frantically launched their God King level attacks upwards. The vast power almost shook the entire space. The dazzling brilliance blotted out the sky, as if they were trying to release the anger in their hearts. On the other hand, Long Chun immersed his mind into his divine soul, seeking a solution from the Sovereign Lord's remnant soul. The patrolling God King's realm was too high, His understanding of the Tao of arrays had reached an extremely deep level. These 7 divine statues could even kill godly kings, so it was obvious. The Sovereign Lord's remnant soul pondered for a moment, then said to Long Chen, "It is not difficult to break this array, but once it is broken, what will the people of the Red Moon do? Without these statues, it will not be difficult to break the Blood Moon well by surprise, and escape with my remnant soul. But now, with so many people watching, once this array is broken, what awaits you will be more than 10 god kings and countless sovereigns." Long Chen frowned. He knew what the Sovereign Lord's remnant soul meant. Long Chen took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Can you think of a way to destroy part of the array first, so that I can enter the Blood Moon well and obtain the 7 Sovereign Lord's remnant bodies? If the 7 Sovereign Lord's remnant bodies are merged, there might be a chance of survival." Long Chen's words silenced the Sovereign Lord's remnant soul. It was not that he had not thought of such a simple logic, but if he really entered the Blood Moon well in front of so many people and merged with the Sovereign Lord's remnant bodies, it might cause a lot of trouble. After all, this was the Central Region, not the North Foot territory. Time passed by slowly. The Sovereign Lord's remnant soul finally spoke, "Let's enter the Blood Moon well first." The Blood Moon well's origin was reactivated with the Sovereign Lord's remnant body, so there should be other things inside. These arrays are about to be activated, so the Blood Moon well should not be affected. Long Chen agreed. At this moment, the surrounding people of Bai Yishen sat to the side in despair. During this period of time, they had used almost every method they could think of, but they could not shake the 7 statues at all. Looking at the surrounding people of Bai Yishen, who had completely given up, Long Chen said in a deep voice, "Follow me, we'll enter the Blood Moon well first." The 2 god kings immediately shook their heads and said without looking at Long Chen, "This Blood Moon well has been completely suppressed by the 7 patrolling statues. If we don't destroy the statues, we won't be able to get within 100 meters of the Blood Moon well. Under these 7 patrolling statues, our clan's spells are completely useless. What can you do with your Sovereign Lord cultivation?" Long Chen frowned slightly and could not help but shake his head and snort coldly, "Weren't you all prepared to die before coming here? You're so impassioned, yet you're already acting like this before you're at the end of your rope." Chapter 979. The 7 statues caused the formation to rise and fall. The 7 Blood Moon wells glowed with bloody light. The people of the Red Moon looked at the people inside with amusement, as if they were waiting for them to be crushed by the formation. Under everyone's gaze, Long Chen suddenly moved, and the immeasurable emperor and the others followed closely behind. The 2 divine kings of the people of Bai Yishen shook their heads and followed behind Long Chen when they saw the formation rumbling, Tao principles evolving, and killing intent raging around them. Although they did not believe that Long Chen could break the formation and enter the Blood Moon well, they had no choice but to follow Long Chen at this moment. Nearly a quarter of an hour passed. Long Chen led everyone to the Blood Moon well in a formation. Those who were close to the Blood Moon well could even smell the unusual stench of blood at the tip of their nostrils. As the stench of blood grew stronger, the killing intent of the formation also grew stronger. The 2 divine kings and the many sovereigns stared at the statues beside the Blood Moon well with great fear. Long Chen was the first to bear the brunt. His eyes shone with a divine light, and a mighty wave of soul power rushed out. "I will use my soul to help you see through this patrolling statue. You just need to use the Jiutsang Central Suppression Halberd to break the formation above the Blood Moon well and rush inside," the Sovereign Master's remnant soul said. Long Chen nodded. Countless formation runes appeared in front of his eyes from the Blood Moon well under the patrolling statue. Buzz. He held the Jiutsang Central Suppression Halberd in his hand. Everyone looked at Long Chen in shock. No one had expected that he would actually use his weapon to forcefully break through the formation. The two divine kings could not help but smile bitterly. The patrolling divine king was the helmsman sent by the Juga Forbidden God clan. He was extremely proficient in the art of formations. Even though the two of them were divine kings, it was impossible for them to break the formation released by the statue. Long Chern was only a sovereign master. How could he break the formation by force? However, when the Jiao Tsang central suppression halberd fell, everyone had a strange look on their faces. Even in the sky, the people of the Red Moon looked at each other, not knowing what Long Chen was doing. The halberd ceaselessly descended from the sky, and the divine energy on it was sometimes violent and sometimes gentle. Everywhere it passed, the height of the ground was disorderly, and it seemed to follow a pattern yet seemed to be traceless, causing it to be extremely profound. What is this person doing? This halberd seems a little unusual. Even though I'm so far away, I can still feel a strong sense of suppression from it. The old woman from Red Moon frowned slightly. The ethereal king and God King Bone Kill also sensed the greatness of the halberd. God King Bone Kill, in particular, seemed to be very interested. Everyone's attention was attracted by the halberd, but no one thought that Long Chen was trying to break the formation. Rumble! When the halberd completely tore apart the formation above the Blood Moon Well like a giant blade, and waves of violent formation power swept out, they were dumbfounded. This guy's strange action just now was actually to break the formation. How did he do it? The patrolling statues were left behind by the patrolling God King. How did he break the formation above the Blood Moon Well? Even we can't remove this formation. Quickly contact the patrolling God King. If this goes on, the Blood Moon Well will be completely destroyed. The people of the Red Moon were inexplicably shocked, and their expressions changed again and again. Although the formation had sealed Long Chen and the others in the Blood Moon Well, it had also blocked them from entering it. The people of the Red Moon were very concerned about the Blood Moon Well. Long Chen and the others had just rushed into the Blood Moon Well, and the old woman was about to ask someone to inform the patrolling God King. At this moment, God King Bone Kill suddenly said, "Don't worry, the Blood Moon Realm is not a safe place, and they may not be able to break it. At least things haven't reached the point where we have to invite the patrolling God King." Several Red Moon God Kings nodded. The patrolling Divine King's reputation was illustrious. Who didn't know of him? Practically anyone who was targeted by him would be skinned alive. Just for these 7 statues, they had sacrificed too much. The old woman seemed to have a lot of trust in God King Bone Kill and agreed, but she felt a little uneasy. On the other side, Long Chen and the others had already entered the Blood Moon Well. The 2 God Kings and the many sovereigns seemed to have pulled themselves out of their previous state. They never thought that Long Chen would be able to break the formation scattered by the patrolling statues with his halberd and enter the Blood Moon Well. Everyone was covered in blood at this moment, and everything in front of them was blood-red. Rumble! Before they could carefully observe the inside of the Blood Moon Well, they could already hear the endless rumbling outside the Blood Moon Well. Vast killing intent had already begun to wreak havoc. Killing formations intertwined, and divine light filled the sky. Terrifying auras rose one after another, covering the entire area where the Blood Moon Well was. Everyone could not help but gasp. The 2 God Kings secretly rejoiced. If they did not believe in Long Chen, even a God King's body would have been destroyed and turned into meat on the chopping block. Long Chen did not have any intention of paying attention to them at this moment. His eyes had already landed on the center of the Blood Moon Well, where the blood-red light was the densest. It was a wrist bone. There was no flesh on the wrist bone, but the bone-white light emitted endless vitality, activating the entire Blood Moon Well. The people around also noticed Long Chen's abnormality and followed his gaze to the center of the Blood Moon Well. When everyone saw the wrist bone, they could not help but widen their eyes. Is this the reason why the Red Moon can reactivate the Blood Moon Well? What is this thing? One of the God Kings cried out. The other God King also stared at the wrist bone. There were countless Tao patterns on the wrist bone, and the Tao rhythm did not dissipate. It was the same as the entire blood moon well. The God King's eyes were filled with shock, and his voice trembled as he said, "The remains of the Realm Lord? Did the people of the Red Moon find a way to shake the Realm Lord's source?" The words of the two God Kings made all the sovereigns look at the wrist bone. Who in the ancient sacred divine world did not know the name of the Realm Lord? When his body collapsed and scattered between heaven and earth, countless experts rushed over like herons. Countless people died for him, but few were able to gain anything from it. At this moment, they finally understood why the Red Moon could reactivate the source of the Blood Moon well. As the two God Kings spoke, inscriptions began to form on their right hands. They wanted to destroy the array on the wrist bone and cut off the source of the Blood Moon well once again. Long Chen moved and stopped the two of them, saying in a deep voice, "You can't do that. This thing is not as simple as you think." He could clearly feel the powerful aura of death on the wrist bone. This aura came from God King Bone Kill. Chapter 980. The words of the Emperor Lord's remnant soul caused Long Chen's heart to sink. When he looked at it with the Emperor Lord's remnant soul, he discovered that the Blood Pillar's aura was formed from Death Chi. The two God Kings immediately stopped when they heard Long Chen's words. Long Chen's ability to break the formation made them even more reliant on him. The Emperor Lord's remnant soul and Long Chen discussed for a while, but they had already come up with a way to break the formation and destroy the Blood Moon well. Long Chen's eyes swept across the people of Bai Yishen and said in a deep voice, "Since you've come here today with no regard for your lives, can you promise me one thing?" The people of Bai Yishen looked at each other and answered without hesitation, "The method to break the Blood Moon well has been passed down for generations. As long as you can break the Blood Moon well, so what if we die?" These people were already prepared to die before they came. In their opinion, Long Chen and the others were worthy of respect for coming even though they were outsiders. Long Chen nodded and said, "I want to carve an inscription in your souls. As long as you agree to this, you just have to listen to my orders. You may not lose your lives here." Everyone nodded and agreed. At this point, they had no other choice but to believe in Long Chen. Buzz. The two God Kings opened their minds and allowed Long Chen to carve the inscription on their souls. The blinding light even covered the surrounding blood and light of the formation. This is not the soul of an emperor. The God King who had the inscription on his soul was extremely shocked. That vast ocean-like intent made him tremble from the bottom of his soul. This was definitely not a soul power that an emperor could possess. The others also looked sideways, but under the guidance of the two God Kings, they did not ask too many questions before Long Chen carved the inscription on their souls. Long Chen's forehead was covered in sweat. These inscriptions were carved by him using the Emperor Lord's remnant soul. The two God Kings glanced at Long Chen deeply and said, "You actually have such a secret on you. No wonder you had to carve such a pattern. With this Tao pattern, I'm afraid you can easily erase all the connections between us." At this moment, the two of them seemed to regard Long Chen as a heaven-defying master who had taken over someone else's body. It was even very likely that he was a god emperor. Therefore, they addressed him with more respect. Long Chen nodded. It was just as they thought. This Tao pattern was left behind by the Darch Lord's remnant soul. It was indeed to completely erase their origin memories. Next, he was going to fuse with this wrist bone. If news of him being able to fuse with the source of the Monarch Lord's remnant body was leaked, he would definitely attract countless powerful enemies. He knew that this day would come sooner or later, but the later it came, the better it was for him. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Long Chen slowly walked towards the center of the Blood Moon well where the wrist bone was located. Tao Law threads began to condense in his hand and eventually landed on the wrist bone. As the threads of Tao Law fell, the primal chaos golden codex in Long Chen's body began to circulate. The divine light around his body began to intertwine with that of his wrist bone. At this moment, the two god kings, many venerable sovereigns, and even Zhizong Dizuan could not help but tremble. Long Chen could actually devour the source of the monarch lord's remnant body. Without waiting for the god king to speak, Zhizong Dizuan said in a trembling voice, You're the person who shook the inextinguishable Tao law a long time ago, the younger brother of the ancient sacred world's lord. His voice became softer and softer until it was almost inaudible. He knew that once this matter spread, it was very likely to shake the entire ancient sacred world. Everything related to Long Chen would be destroyed. Long Chen did not answer. He was still rapidly absorbing the source of the monarch lord's remnant soul. He needed time. The large amount of death energy contained within gave them hope of survival. However, all of this had to start from the first wrist bone. Time passed by second. After everyone knew about Long Chen's secret, they became even more respectful towards him. The two god kings were also very confident. In the blink of an eye, 2 full days had passed. We can't go on like this. Long Chen will need at least 10 days to fuse with the wrist bone. If we don't do anything during these 10 days, it will definitely arouse suspicion. The immeasurable emperor's Tao ring glowed as he heard the clamor of the people outside. At this moment, even God King Bone Kill was very confused. Long Chen and the others had been in the Blood Moon Well for too long. The wrist bone was connected to the Blood Moon Well. He had not changed most of the Tao patterns on it. He had only changed the source of blood energy into death energy. If he rashly broke the wrist bone, the death energy would definitely gush out and kill them in the Blood Moon Well. Even if someone managed to get out alive, they would be killed by the array formation outside. We can't wait any longer. If these people can really break through the Blood Moon Well safely, it will be fine if it's just one of them. If they can break through the array, the other 6 Blood Moon Wells will all be destroyed, the old woman said in a deep voice. The old lady said in a deep voice, At that time, even if we kill them, it will be meaningless. Compared to the dangerous situation Long Chen and the others were in, the people of the Red Moon were actually still on tenterhook. The array of the patrolling God Kings was really giving them a headache. God King Bone Kill and the Ethereal King looked at each other and nodded. It was obvious that they were also very concerned about the Blood Moon Well. Go and ask the patrolling God Kings to open the array. We'll directly kill these people. The old woman nodded and motioned for the people behind her to report this to the clan. However, at this moment, dozens of venerable sovereigns suddenly rushed out of the Blood Moon Well. Every one of them was covered in death energy and had painful expressions on their faces. They had just rushed out of the Blood Moon Well when they were completely crushed by the power of the killing array emitted by the 7 patrolling statues. Even their souls burned with monstrous flames as they endured unparalleled pain. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Before anyone could react, they saw death energy rising from the Blood Moon Well where Long Chen and the others were. It seems that they can't help but make a move. After all, if they wait any longer and the Blood Moon Well is completely opened, only death awaits them. The old woman stopped what she was doing again. The other God King behind her, who was about to pass down the order, couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. He clearly remembered that the patrolling God Kings had taken away nearly 1,000 venerable sovereigns to feed the array flags the last time they came. Death energy lingered above the blood pillars as countless array lights crisscrossed. No one could see into the Blood Moon Well even if they looked from afar, but if they really saw the scene inside the Blood Moon Well, they might be so shocked that they would be speechless. Inside the Blood Moon Well, Long Chen was still fusing his wrist bones, but the venerable sovereigns behind him were transforming their source strength into death energy and rushing out of the Blood Moon Well. Chapter 981. People from the people of Bai Yishen kept dying. These people transformed their divine power into death aura and poured it out of the blood moon well. The people of the Red Moon even saw many sovereigns die in the formation after rushing out of the blood moon well, and they immediately felt relieved. Day after day passed. Although many people saw the death energy, they still became impatient. They only calmed down when they saw a divine king fly out of the blood moon well with his body covered in death energy, and then his body was crushed by the formation and his divine soul was trapped in it. One of the two divine kings has been forced out. It seems that they will all be annihilated by the death energy in the well in 4 or 5 days at most. Divine King Bone Kill said lightly. They waited for another 5 days. On this day, the death energy in the blood moon well began to gradually disappear, and the original blood-red light pillar was long gone. The people of the Red Moon subconsciously thought that Long Chen and the others had died in the blood moon well. They waited for the 7 patrolling statues to remove the formation. Otherwise, they could not even see the blood moon well, let alone confirm whether Long Chen and the others were dead. What's going on? It has been 16 days since the people of Bai Yishen entered the blood moon well. Why haven't the patrolling statues removed the formation yet? Could it be that there is still someone alive in the blood moon well? If so, we can only wait for the other blood moon wells to be activated, then kill him and wait for the formation to be removed. Everyone began to speculate, but gradually the ethereal king and divine king Bone Kill frowned. Divine King Bone Kill was the first to speak. Something is wrong. I can still clearly sense the aura of that skeletal creature. The ethereal king nodded and glanced at the divine souls of the people of Bai Yishen who were still struggling in the formation. He replied, "These people have been struggling. Although their divine souls are rapidly weakening, and 70 to 80% of them have died, the remaining people seem to be waiting for something." Rumble. Just as the two of them realized that something was amiss, they heard a deafening roar coming from the blood moon well where Long Chen and the others were. After the rumbling sound, the surging death aura turned into a torrent and rushed out. It even broke through the divine light of the array. The violent death aura immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the Red Moon. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, however, they saw a person standing proudly in the midst of the death chi. Buzz. A burst of ear-piercing rumbling sound entered everyone's ears. When they focused their eyes again, that person had already disappeared. The deathly aura above the blood moon well was still turbulent, but there was an additional person under the cover of the 7 patrolling statues. This person was Long Chen. Long Chen held the 9 firmament-suppressing halberd in his hand. His entire body was shrouded in death chi and divine light. Wherever Long Chen's halberd passed, the power of the array was suppressed. He charged straight towards the 2nd blood moon well. Isn't that the Emperor Realm Master from before? Who the hell is he? When did the people of Bai Yishen have such a person? Not only can he break part of the array of the patrolling statues, but he can also survive under the deathly aura. Don't worry about that. He seems to want to destroy the other 6 blood moon wells. The patrolling statues have no effect on him at all. The people of the Red Moon kept shouting. At this moment they were in a complete mess. The old lady of the Divine King realm looked extremely gloomy. She stared at Divine King Bone Kill and the Ethereal King and shouted, "This is what you get for not letting me find the patrolling statues. What should we do now?" The Ethereal King and Divine King Bone Kill were also pale. They did not know how to answer. After a while, the two of them could only say, "This person may not be able to destroy all the blood moon wells. However, since he is suppressing the 7 patrolling statues, we will help him break this array. Once this array is broken, we will kill this person first." The old lady snorted. At this moment, she did not have time to argue with the two of them. With a command, everyone began to attack the array of the patrolling statues. At this moment, the old lady was extremely regretful. She blamed herself for not reporting to the patrolling Divine King beforehand. Even if she had to pay a huge price, it would have been much better than the current situation. However, even if she reported to the patrolling Divine King now, it was probably too late to stop Long Chen. Rumble. The God Kings of the Red Moon Divine Clan struck at the same time. Endless rumbling sounds and powerful will of destruction spread out. The patrolling statues that were originally used to suppress all the patrolling statues near the Blood Moon Wells had become objects to protect Long Chen and the others. This was probably something that the patrolling Divine King did not expect. Long Chen flew alone into the space where the Blood Moon Wells were. Everywhere he passed, endless arrays rolled over. Lightning was like a blade, and flames were like hell. A terrifying aura and endless aura that even the Divine Kings were wary of swept over him. The 7 patrolling statues rose and fell one after another. Every statue had Tao laws evolving. Tao rhymes condensed and flowed. It was extremely terrifying. Such a terrifying scene was blocked 10 meters away from Long Chen. It could not hurt him at all. Under the Jiao Tsongyang halberd, the Tao laws trembled and the inscriptions collapsed. Everywhere Long Chen passed, there was an endless aura of death and constantly shattered array Tao patterns. The aura of death helped Long Chen block the array around him. With the Divine Lord's remnant soul, it was not impossible for Long Chen to directly suppress the Tao patterns in the 7 patrolling statues, let alone break the array. However, he could not do that. At this moment, he had to use the aura of death to block the array. Only by walking in it could he destroy the Blood Moon Wells. The aura of death blocked the power of the array for him. These arrays also completely isolated the people of the Red Moon outside. Long Chen saw that countless people of the Red Moon outside the array had already begun to attack the array. He knew that there was not much time left, so he had already used his maximum speed. He quickly flew into the 2nd Blood Moon Well and collected the 2nd Divine Lord's remnant body. It was a toe bone. As soon as the toe bone was taken away, endless aura of death began to rage. However, no matter how much the aura of death was like a tide, it could not get close to Long Chen. There was a faint divine light on his wrist that enveloped him. This wrist was the Divine Lord's remnant body that he had refined. This item had already been added with Tao patterns to suppress the aura of death by the Bone Kill Divine Lord. It was not surprising that it could resist the aura of death. Long Chen had already refined the origin inside and could devour the power of origin inside at any time. When Long Chen rushed out of the 2nd Blood Moon Well, the Red Moon outside the array was in an uproar. Even the Bone Kill Divine Lord was stunned. He stared at Long Chen and said, "How did he do it?" He could completely ignore the aura of death. Could it be that he is able to break apart all the Tao patterns I left in the white bones under such a dense death aura? This is impossible. Chapter 982. Godly King Bone Kill stopped attacking the formation. His green eyes stared at Long Chen. He could not believe that Long Chen could break the formation while the white bones were suppressing the aura of death. In fact, he was completely wrong. Long Chen did not break the formation, but refined the Supreme Emperor's bones directly. Of course, Godly King Bone Kill would never have thought of this. After he and the Ethereal King came to the Central Province, they chose to join the clan because of the Blood Moon Well. Using the Supreme Emperor's remains to restart the Blood Moon Well was also the method they proposed. Just to remove all the flesh and blood from the Supreme Emperor's remains, they had to use countless methods. If not for the fact that Godly King Bone Kill was a skeleton creature, he would not have been able to leave Tao patterns on a few bones. The Blood Moon Well was not only important to the Red Moon, but also to him and the Ethereal King. This item could make the Godly King puppets they refined with the reincarnation spring purer, and even grow rapidly and change their nature. But he never thought that a Supreme Emperor could refine the Supreme Emperor's remains. He still thought that Long Chen's attainments in Tao patterns of formation were beyond his imagination, and that he could even break the Tao patterns while the bone was suppressing the aura of death. Stop! The old woman in the lead was panting, but it was not because she was tired. Her eyes were bloodshot. The 7 blood moon wells were about to be broken by Long Chen in front of everyone's eyes. In order to restart the blood moon well, the Red Moon did not hesitate to seek help from the patrolling godly kings, losing a lot of resources. They were lucky to get 4 out of the 7 Supreme Emperor's remains, and the other 3 were split up and used by godly King Bone Kill with great effort. This was why there were only bones of the Supreme Emperor's remains in the Blood Moon well. The old woman's voice faded. All the members of the Red Moon Divine clan stopped their attack. They knew that there was no point in continuing to attack. With a muffled sound, the Blood Moon well where the 7 blood pillars were completely lost its color. In its place were 7 giant pythons formed by the endless aura of death that surrounded Long Chen. Whoosh! The 7 blood moon wells were all destroyed. Everyone's eyes looked as if they wanted to kill Long Chen. The old woman seemed to have lost all her strength, but her voice was hoarse to the extreme. She stared at Long Chen with hatred and said, "There's no need to attack the formation. I want to see him die of exhaustion under the bombardment of the formation." The people of Bai Yishen walked out of the blood moon well and stuck close to Long Chen. The old woman obviously also regarded Long Chen as one of those people of Bai Yishen who didn't care about their lives. Although the boundless death chi was able to resist the might of the formation, how long could it last? But at this moment, God King Gu Kill suddenly said, "This person wants to break out of the formation. Otherwise, wouldn't the appearance of these people of Bai Yishen increase the pressure on him for no reason? Unless they want to die under this pressure." As soon as he finished speaking, a smile appeared on the corner of Long Chen's mouth. Many people might think that they were seeking death at this moment. But as God King Gu Kill said, he wanted to break out of the formation. Long Chen used more than 10 days to refine the wrist bone in the first blood moon well. During this period of time, the people of Bai Yishen even rushed into the formation in order to buy time and was killed by the 7 patrolling statues. If it was just to destroy the blood moon well, Long Chen felt that all this was not worth it. The death chi was his trump card to leave the red moon. Rumble. With a loud sound, Long Chen's halberd flew out of his hand. The 9 Azure Yang suppression halberd turned into a long rainbow and swept straight toward the patrolling statue closest to it. The traces left by the halberd were very strange and puzzling. The halberd seemed to come alive and kept drawing on the patrolling statue. A divine light would occasionally appear and enter the patrolling statue, and sometimes a few Tao laws would be pulled out. At this moment, the faces of the people of the Red Moon gradually became numb because of the shock. No one even made a sound. Countless pairs of eyes were fixed on the 9 Azure Yang suppression halberd and Long Chen. Long Chen's fingertips moved slightly, and the 9 Azure Yang suppression halberd kept moving and drawing. The patrolling statue was given to the patrolling divine king by the Zhuge Forbidden God tribe. Can this person really break it? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Can he really break the patrolling statue? After all, he could destroy the blood moon well without being affected by the death chi and even control it. This meant that his attainment in Tao patterns and formations had reached an extremely high level. After a short discussion, everyone's eyes fell on Long Chen again. Even the people of Bai Yishen, who followed behind Long Chen, had sweat on their foreheads. Everyone clenched their fists tightly. Long Chen said that he might be able to bring them out of this place alive. They were all from the people of Bai Yishen. For generations, they had cultivated the technique to break the blood moon well. Once this day came, they had never thought of leaving the red moon alive. But no one was really willing to die here. Now, the one who broke the blood moon well was not them, but Long Chen. Long Chen was their last hope. In fact, If Long Chen was not here, with their techniques, they were afraid that they would all die in the death chi left behind by the Bone-Kill Divine King. This time, the Blood Moon Well was unbreakable under the control of the Bone-Kill Divine King. Ka. A muffled sound spread. Although the sound was not loud, it was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. Under everyone's gaze, the patrolling statue in front of the 9 Azure Yang suppression halberd actually slowly fell from the sky and suppressed the ground. The brilliance on it was completely restrained. He really suppressed the patrolling statue of the patrolling Divine King. Who is this person? Could the Tao pattern of the patrolling Divine King's statue be so easily broken? How did he do it? If the patrolling Divine King knew about this, he would probably be extremely shocked. Do you think the patrolling Divine King would not know about the 7 patrolling statues' movements? Today, this person will definitely not leave this place alive. The people of the Red Moon were shocked and angry to the extreme. Not only did Long Chen destroy the Blood Moon Well, but he also suppressed the 7 patrolling statues. Now, not only did the Red Moon Well lose the Red Moon Well, it was very likely that they would be blamed by the patrolling Divine King. The old woman looked at the Divine King experts and Zun experts behind her. She took a deep breath and said coldly, "Once this person breaks the formation, take him down immediately. I only hope that the patrolling Divine King will come a little later. Let us take this person to atone for our sins." Chapter 983. The Ethereal King and the Bone-Kill Divine King had even used the Emperor's body to reactivate the Blood Moon Well. Long Chen was able to break the Tao pattern array in the Blood Moon Well and suppress the 7 patrolling divine statues. His strange ability had attracted their attention. The old woman pretended not to hear them. If the Bone-Kill Divine King and the Ethereal King had not stopped them from asking for help from the patrolling Divine Kings, they would not be in such a predicament. The old woman snorted. "You replaced all the Tao patterns in the Blood Moon Well with Death Chi. What's the use of the Death Chi now? If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have come to this. All the masters of the Red Moon are rushing here. He's just a venerable sovereign. What can he do even if he has thousands of skills?" The Bone-Kill Divine King and the Ethereal King were speechless for a moment. They were indeed responsible for this. Long Chen's mysteriousness had really surprised them. The Ethereal King smiled bitterly and gave the Bone-Kill Divine King a look. The two of them slowly retreated with the 5 Divine King-level skeletons behind them. On the other hand, more and more people of the Red Moon arrived. All the Divine Kings and Venerable Sovereigns had gathered here. Rumble. An hour later, with a loud noise, the array patterns left behind by the 7 divine statues disappeared completely. The 7 divine statues fell to the ground and lost all their brilliance. Between heaven and earth, only the 7 pillars of Death Chi behind Long Chen continued to fall from the 7 Blood Moon Wells. Divine light surged all over his body, and there was a hint of pain on his face. The immeasurable emperor and many people of the people of Bai Yi Shen followed closely behind him. Everyone's forehead was covered in sweat, and their fists were tightly clenched. In front of them was the Red Moon, the fighting force of an entire clan. Destroy them all. Capture their souls and torture them for 100 years. The old woman was so angry that she had lost all her rationality. The Blood Moon Well was the hope of the Red Moon's rise to power, but they had failed after spending so much effort. Behind her were more than 10 God Kings and more than 10,000 venerable sovereigns. Countless rays of divine light instantly fell upon Long Chen and the others like a tide. The original area of the Blood Moon Well, except for the area within 100 meters of the Blood Moon Well, had turned into powder. The attacks of countless experts caused the space to distort. This scene caused even the God King behind Long Chen to break out in cold sweat. He could not help but release his divine power. At this moment, Long Chen suddenly took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Hold on tight. How long you can live will depend on the will of the heavens." His voice fell. The immeasurable emperor and the 9 treasures divine king placed their arms on his shoulders. The rest of the people of Bai Yi Shen did the same. Rumble. Just as the endless attacks were about to land, more than 10 god kings charged towards them from behind. Long Chen suddenly moved. The 9 heavens suppression halberd soared into the air and landed in the endless death chi. At the same time, the shadow of an Azura descended and followed closely behind. Before the Azura's shadow could release any pressure, it shattered into countless phantoms in the blink of an eye. The stirring of the 9 heavens suppression halberd and the bombardment of the Azura whirling elephant immediately caused the endless death chi to spread out like a fog that covered the sky. Whoosh! The endless attacks fell into the death chi like a soldering iron being thrown into a pool. Everyone could not help but stop in their tracks. The ethereal king and the bone-kill divine king immediately flew back. They were not afraid of the death chi, but felt that something was not right. The bone-kill divine king was extremely cautious. In his opinion, Long Chen would not be so easy to kill. The fact that Long Chen could break the Tao pattern arrays he left in the 7 blood moon wells was enough to make him take him seriously. In fact, the bone-kill divine king did not know. Among the 7 blood moon wells, Long Chen had only broken the first one by himself. The other ones were left behind by the people of Bai Yi Shen. Divine rays of various colors shot into the sky, and terrifying auras rose one after another. The entire sky was covered under the death chi. Although such a majestic death chi could not kill a large number of experts from the Red Moon, it could still stop them from attacking. "Let's go!" At the same time, Long Chen roared, and everyone instantly pushed their speed to the limit and flew into the sky. The divine rays on Long Chen's wrist bones were like tides, and the death chi around them retreated. The bone-kill divine king immediately sensed where Long Chen and the others were. In the blink of an eye, he changed directions with the ethereal king and rushed toward Long Chen and the others. The death chi spread out in a large area, but its power was greatly reduced. Although it was troublesome for the Red Moon, it did not affect the bone-kill divine king and the ethereal king at all. The death chi was originally created by the 2 of them and was sealed in the blood moon well. Amidst the endless death chi, the 10 divine kings also used various methods and quickly began to suppress the death chi around them. The expressions of Long Chen and the others changed drastically, and they immediately sensed the auras of the bone-kill divine king and the ethereal king. "Your Excellency Long Chen, please bring them back to the clan if you can. Please bring them back to the clan. Please bring them back to the clan." Firm and resolute voices rang out behind Long Chen. The 2 divine kings suddenly flew back with the rest of the people who were left with only their divine souls. There were more than 10 people who were left with only their divine souls. Previously, they had turned their divine souls into death chi in order to make the Red Moon lower their guard. This included the divine king who had rushed out of the blood moon well. There were also nearly 30 venerable sovereigns who were unharmed and did not hesitate to follow behind and die together. The leaders were 2 divine kings. The divine king who was left with only his divine soul was slightly damaged after rushing into the array, while the other divine king was full of divine power. Suddenly, white flames ignited around these people. The light of the flames even forced the death chi around them to retreat. In an instant, everyone turned into shooting stars and flew toward the auras of the bone-kill divine king and the others. Boom! 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 A deafening boom resounded through the entire space. Dozens of venerable sovereigns who were at the peak of their battle strength self-destructed together with their divine souls, and endless divine power and divine souls swept out. The terrifying auras of the 2 divine kings almost swept through the entire sky before they died, blocking the path of the bone-kill divine king and the others. The immeasurable emperor and the Zhizong Dizuan were both moved. There were still nearly 20 venerable sovereigns behind them, and all of them looked aggrieved and angry. Rise! Long Chen did not show any signs of letting down his guard. The divine light on his right wrist circulated and turned it into powder. As soon as he finished speaking, countless Tao laws appeared out of thin air. The 7 patrolling divine statues that had landed on the ground had once again emitted boundless divine light. A strong sense of danger suddenly enveloped everyone in the Blood Moon Well. Most of the people of the Red Moon who had not yet escaped from the death chi felt the endless power of the array. Chapter 984. The 7 patrolling statues emitted endless divine light and once again covered the Blood Moon Well. At this moment, the entire Red Moon was in a complete panic. Only God King Gu Kil and the Ethereal King were shocked. Half of their bodies had even been destroyed by the self-destruction of the 2 God Kings and venerable emperors. The 2 of them frantically tried to escape into the distance. How could they have the time to pay attention to Long Chen? If the 7 patrolling statues were activated, the boundless array would become a death sentence for everyone. They could still clearly remember the scene of one of the people of Bai Yi Shen's God Kings falling into the array. In just a short moment, he had been turned into powder, and his soul had almost been destroyed by the raging flames that followed. When God King Gu Kil left the Blood Moon Well with the 5 God King level skeletons behind him, they could not help but let out a long sigh of relief. This person is extremely cunning. I have never seen the Tao of array runes in my life. Not only did he break the 7 statues, but he also understood the main array inside and even erased the soul brand left behind by the patrolling God Kings. The 2 of them looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. On the other hand, Long Chen and the others had already flown away and disappeared into thin air. Xiu xiu xiu. At the same time, the old woman and the other God Kings also flew out one after another. These people used their divine power to bring the venerable emperors away from the Blood Moon Well. The 7 statues floated up and down, and endless killing intent reappeared. The array in the sky rose and fell in an instant. Everyone hide in the Blood Moon Well. The killing array will not affect the Blood Moon Well. The old woman could not help but tremble as she shouted frantically. The God Kings also flew away, shouting non-stop. They frantically urged their divine power to break the death aura around the 7 Blood Moon Wells as much as possible. At this moment, they had no intention of chasing after Long Chen. If the array was fully activated, the 7 patrolling statues would kill countless of the Red Moon's core forces. Nearly 6,000 venerable emperors were still in the Blood Moon Well. The 7 patrolling statues had already been activated, so they could not leave. He could only hide in the Blood Moon Well before the formation was fully activated. This scene was actually very similar to that of Long Chen and the people of Bai Yi Shen. Quick, go and invite the patrolling Divine King. Our clan is willing to pay any price. Have him come to our clan as soon as possible. On the other side, one of them was 3 meters tall. There were 5 extremely deep runes on his bald head. Other than his eyes, there was almost no skin on his face. His entire body was covered in Tao runes. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that his entire body was covered in 5-colored divine runes. With each step he took, he could travel tens of thousands of miles. Behind him, there were 5 spirit soul array flags. The array flags belonged to the 5 elements, and they circulated behind him. This person was the patrolling Divine King. At this moment, the news of the Red Moon had not yet reached him, but he was already on his way to the Red Moon. Someone was able to erase the divine soul imprints I left on the 7 patrolling statues. Could it be that the people of Bai Yi Shen still have such a powerful person? This person muttered to himself. There was both surprise and doubt between his brows. The 7 patrolling statues were personally refined by the Zhuge Jinshan clan for him. Such a thing had never happened before. At the same time, Long Chen and the other 2 flew away under the spell of the remaining people of Bai Yishan. If it were not for these spells, they would not have been able to leave the Red Moon so easily even if they had the chance to shake off the numerous divine kings and venerable emperors. After they left the Blood Moon Divine Clan, they sped all the way to the people of Bai Yishan. Seeing that no one was chasing after them, Long Chen suddenly broke away from the spell. More than 20 venerable emperors also stopped in their track. They looked at Long Chen and asked, "Sir, what are you doing?" Everyone's faces were filled with respect for Long Chen. If it were not for Long Chen, they would not have been completely wiped out in the Red Moon. Even if they risked their lives, they would only be able to break through one of the Blood Moon wells. The endless death aura and the 7 patrolling statues were enough to kill them all. Long Chen glanced at the 20 venerable emperors. He took a deep breath and said, "I can't follow you back to the people of Bai Yishan. Otherwise, the patrolling Divine King will definitely come. The patrolling Divine King will definitely not let the matter of the patrolling statues go." The immeasurable emperor nodded slightly. He put his palms together and could only sigh. For a moment, he did not say anything. Zhang Dizuan was the complete opposite. Now, he looked at Long Chen with eyes full of admiration. He completely understood why the 9 Treasures Divine King had asked him to follow Long Chen for a year. Today, Long Chen's actions had shocked him, both in terms of morality and methods. The 20 venerable emperors immediately shouted, "This must not happen. Sir Long Chen has offended the Red Moon and the patrolling Divine King for our people. How can we sit by and do nothing? You have participated in the palace examination. Now that you have joined our people, you are a member of the people of Bai Yishan. If it were not for you, how could the Blood Moon well have been broken? We would not have survived. Our people cannot abandon you because of this." Everyone's voices rose and fell. Unexpectedly, no one wanted to let Long Chen go. Long Chen smiled bitterly and shook his head. He did not expect things to develop to this point. He was prepared to break off relations with the Red Moon, but offending the patrolling Divine King was unexpected. He had not been in the people of Bai Yishan for long. In terms of benefits, perhaps the immeasurable emperor and Zhang Dizuan had gained a lot from the people of Bai Yishan, but those things were useless to him. However, he did not regret it. It was all because of Bai Yisheng. "You have treated me like a country knight, and I will repay you like a country knight." Long Chen did not say anything more. He just said to the immeasurable emperor and Zhang Dizuan, "The patrolling Divine King will only look for me. It should be fine for the 2 of you to hide in the people of Bai Yishan." "Amateus, are you scolding me?" The immeasurable emperor patted the skeleton creature behind him and put his palms together. Zhang Dizuan snorted coldly and said, "My father asked me to follow you for a year, and that's that. If I don't keep my word, how can I return to the 9 Treasures realm in the future?" Both of them looked determined. Long Chen shook his head, but there was a warmth in his heart. He and the immeasurable emperor had schemed against each other several times. It was really strange that they could still be so loyal to each other now that they had come this far. Long Chen nodded and flew away. The immeasurable emperor and Zhang Dizuan followed closely behind. The remaining 20 or so venerable sovereigns kept chasing, but soon they lost track of Long Chen and the others. In terms of speed, they were much slower than Long Chen and the others. The 20 or so venerable sovereigns looked at each other and slowed down. They looked at the place where Long Chen and the others had left, then bowed deeply and did not get up for a long time. The people of Bai Yishan. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.